The Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your SportsCenter update. First on The Fan, the Trailblazers off for yet another day before starting their 5-game road trip in Oklahoma City tomorrow night against the Thunder. The trip also includes stops in Houston for a back-to-back against the Rockets and tilts at the Grizzlies and Pacers. Portland is 6-8 on the season, winners of 3 in a row, though, and tied for the 10th worst record in the league. TNT's got a doubleheader tonight as NBA Cup play continues. First up, the 15-0 Cavaliers at TD Garden to face the Celtics. 4 o'clock tip. The Celtics are 6-point favorites. That's followed by the West-leading Thunder at the Spurs around 6:30. OKC are 9.5-point favorites. 7 weeks after firing head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets have reportedly fired general manager Joe Douglas. The Jets 30-64 during the Douglas tenure with neither a winning season nor a playoff appearance. Former Browns GM Phil Savage has been named the interim general manager. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
Meringatang is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it good.
The old Danny meringue pie.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Good afternoon. Hey, welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Danny and Dusty with you. How's everybody doing this Tuesday?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Doing good.
Danny Meringue, man of his word. Those watching on YouTube, the YouTube Party Animals, can see Danny did shave a mustache.
I'm mustached up.
Now, the impetus of this was, would your wife still find you attractive with the mustache? It's a jar. You said the facial hair doesn't affect. It is a jarring change.
It's a jarring change.
When you go from goat to stash, what were the first words out of her mouth?
So, this
is a great stash, by the way.
Thank you. This is my wife. Me walking out of the bathroom, staring at her, like eyes bulging out of my face.
Yeah, you look like a serial killer.
And she was like, "What is your deal?" And I'm like, "What is your deal?"
Yeah.
She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Am I missing something?" I'm like, "I'm missing something."
Yeah.
She goes, "What do you?" I'm like, I thought she was trolling. She just didn't.
She didn't even notice.
And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
But if she were to cut like an inch of her hair off, she'd be like, "Hello."
Yeah.
Don't you notice?
As soon as I said it, like I literally just like kind of pointed.
Yeah.
Gave her the giant arrow to my face, knife hands. She's like, "Oh, oh yeah." I was like, "Are you?"
Nothing.
You're seeing my chin for the first time in like 2 years.
It's quite a look. Like your mustache is very, what? It is. Have you ever seen Monsters University?
Monsters Inc. Yes.
Have you seen Monsters University?
Oh, yes. I have 2 children. So, yes, of course.
Yeah. You look like the old guy who joins their frat in Monsters University.
Is that Bob?
Bob, yeah. Bob from Monsters University.
Bob Gunderson?
Yeah, Bob. Yeah. It's got a Bob Gunderson look to it. It's a broomy is what
it
is the
is.
way I would
Yes.
describe it. It's a broomy mustache.
My wife followed up with, "You look like my father." And I was like, "Well,
oh.
Because he does have, for
He's
anybody
got
who
the broomy mustache.
Anybody who ever went to Beard and Sub Shop for 25 years, you know my father-in-law, Chuck. He has a very
He's got a broomy stash.
mustache.
Yeah, it's a different one. Like mine comes out on the sides. Like
I trimmed mine up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It went even with the lip line. I did when I originally shaved it. I went full Orange County Chopper.
Boy, yeah, that would be a look with your hair right now.
I almost kept it.
You should have.
I should have kept it, and like at least for a day.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on TV tonight, so
you should have.
I could have got away. I could have got away.
What are you
going
to do tomorrow? You're just gonna keep it.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
good,
keep it.
good. You just don't even acknowledge it.
I mean,
just act like it's nothing.
I mean, I shaved it with an actual razor yesterday. It's already.
And, yeah,
We're already.
you're a
back
woolly
to,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a woolly. You're a woolly.
My hair on my head
Yeah.
and my hair on my face both grow very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't have hair anywhere else.
All right.
I have like 2 chest hairs.
I don't.
It's very weird. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can pull the pant legs up.
I got no. I'm good. Visuals. I got look
at the arms.
Whatever
are
the
they
next
hairy?
words out of your mouth aren't going to unscar my brain.
Yeah.
It's not going to unscar this brain
It's like
here.
a naked roll rat, man.
Oh boy.
Yeah, just not. It's all on the head and the face. It grows back very quickly.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I really didn't grow facial hair until I was like 19, 20. Like I went on my first deployment when I was 18. And
you have to grow facial hair.
Oh yeah,
right?
you have your deployment mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like a rite of passage. And it was like you've talked about your first mustache. Mine was so much worse.
Oh really?
It was so wispy and so bad. It didn't even graduate to caterpillar. It was
no.
Oh man, it was so flat. You know what I mean? Like there was no volume to it. Like that when you say my mustache is broomy, it's got volume to it. There's a thickness. It's not Tom Selleck.
No,
but it's not flat.
Yeah, and that's where like yours comes down.
Yes,
Selleck has got it. Just comes across.
Yes, and
like it's a thing of
and
beauty.
it's got serious depth to it. Like that's the thing is like I go more Sam Elliott than Tom Selleck.
Yeah,
it's the broomy.
Yeah,
but when I had the handlebar,
Beef
I trimmed it up. I trimmed it up a little bit, and I had it to where I could curl it.
Catalonian beef ragu.
God, that sounds pretty tasty. I'm not gonna lie.
I've never had Catalonian beef ragu.
I haven't either. It just sounds.
I don't even know what it is, to be honest.
I mean, I would assume beef ragu from Catalonia. Well,
Yeah.
I've had ragu, and not the pasta.
That would be a beef, sauce, something.
It's a pasta. Yeah, obviously. It looks great. Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah, that looks incredible.
Hey, I got a question. Because when I Googled that, it brought me to, like, all of these recipes for Catalonian beef ragu. Does anybody, and I mean anybody, read the 45 paragraphs before a recipe on the internet?
I immediately hit that jump to recipe button.
And if you don't have the jump to recipe, I don't care how many stars that has.
I'm going
I'm out.
back the heck off of that.
I am out.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? Who cares? Have you ever read any of those either? It is like the backstory of why you enjoyed it, what your kids were wearing that day. It's like, I don't care. Give me the damn recipe.
I anything that does that ever, I don't care how good the recipe is, I go past it.
Yeah, if you have an intrusive pop-up ad,
I'm out.
I won't buy your product.
Yeah. No,
I won't buy your product.
I'm
if
right
you
there
have
with
a recipe where I don't have a jump to recipe option,
I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out.
Just give me, I don't care. I do not care. Nobody cares.
Can I go a literal squirrel moment real quick?
Yes.
Okay. I was probably 15 or 16 when my grandma gave it to me. So the ancestry of my family goes like back 2 generations, and then nobody really knows. It just kind of, there wasn't a lot of records, and my family's very small.
That makes sense.
Right? I mean, that's typically what serial killers do.
Nobody knows who Jack the Ripper is either.
You definitely should not do the 23andMe or Ancestry.com.
I'm actually doing it this year for Christmas.
Buddy,
my
this
wife
is
and I are both
not
gonna do one.
going to work out.
He's going to
well
have a
for
straight
you.
line to Genghis Khan.
Buddy, it's like, you're going to be like, uh-oh. Oh boy! Like
Yes,
if you
some unsolved mysteries
somehow avoided no-fly list to this point, you're gonna get on one
ding,
real
ding, ding,
quick.
But my an offshoot of my grandma's part of the family comes from the like deep south, like in the woods type stuff. And there's a recipe book.
Branches of this family tree are getting smaller.
Yeah,
probably some sort of part of town known as a holler.
Well, here's the thing: it's Arkansas. Like we're talking real southern, right? I don't know anything about this part of my family at all, because they're all long dead. But they had long story short, my grandma gave me a recipe book that had the recipes back to like the early 1800s, and there's recipes in there for varmints. Like
oh yeah,
squirrel.
Yeah, get your squirrel, get your raccoon, get your opossum.
Yeah, like the roadkill cafe kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
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 But they're copies of the actual recipes, like photocopies.
I think we've been saying your last name wrong the entire time. I think it's meringue. It's like, no, it's not meringue. It's meringue.
Yeah. Well, it's the other side of the family, thankfully. But yeah, there's stuff in there that has made me, like, when I look at the recipes, I went, oh, they were like eating this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
BT dubs as far as a good like slow cooked beef ragu goes.
I thought you were gonna go with full on squirrel.
Short ribs.
Okay.
Short ribs in the beef
Ooh.
sauce.
Yeah,
Yes,
all
and then also what is great for the flavor too is like you get like a piece of like Parmesan cheese rind, and you cook the rind in there with it.
All right.
Yeah.
I am so excited for like after the new year when you get your genetic testing back, because it's going to go one of two ways. Either you are going to be very quiet about it and we'll all know how problematic it was,
Did you do it? No, we didn't do it.
or you are going to talk to a nauseating level about how where your family tree goes.
I'm genuinely interested because no one knows.
I think there's going to be a whole
Yeah,
lot of
like
three
it's-
namers in there.
Billy Ray.
Yeah. Well, no, because that's deep on my mom's side. Like, and even then, like on it's like my grandma's brother's side of things. It's super deep out there. But yeah, no, like on my father's side of the family, once it gets past my grandfather, like it's
You don't know,
buddy, it's anybody's guess.
All right.
So I'm
right.
genuinely interested to see what it says.
Oh, this is gonna be content.
Mhm.
Or if you don't say much about it, we know. We know.
No, it'll just
And we're all gonna pry.
But then, well, I mean, if I don't say much about it, it's because there's a pending documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh boy. I'm excited
How
for this.
how crazy would it be if you did like a 23andMe and it actually solved crimes?
That's why I don't do them. Because of I just
Not you, but like somebody in your family.
I feel like that's
Yeah,
happened
no.
a couple of times on
Yeah.
SVU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I absolutely like there is in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I got some family members that may get
some genetic markers in there that might implicate some folks.
Oh, coming in on the old Vancouver Ford text line. Remembering 10 minutes ago
Stop.
when we didn't know what Danny looked like naked.
We don't we don't need to bring that back up. I mean, it'll all haunt us in our dreams tonight.
Like a shorn sheep.
Oh boy. This is how every Dateline NBC ends, and they find the serial killer based upon some distant relative taking a DNA test. Expect the FBI to show up soon.
Wouldn't be the first time.
If you find
Yeah.
old Keith Morrison anywhere near you, you
Yeah.
better be scared.
Yeah.
Or Bill Hader.
Did I ever tell you about the time when I had the
Yes, the FBI show up.
show up?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
All because I was home on leave
Well, they knew.
and they found a body
They knew.
down the street.
They knew. They knew.
We get 2 blocks from your house.
Actually, less than block down the street in the creek.
Oh boy, I know exactly how that conversation went. It went, well, we just wanted to touch base. We know you're home on leave. Be like, I wouldn't have gotten rid of it that close to my house,
Yeah.
guys.
Come on.
It would not have been. Come on.
I'm
not an idiot.
I may or may not have had a few
yeah,
jokes.
I know that. Yeah, and they were probably none too happy with your shenanigans.
Or he did do it that close to his home just to try to throw them
Throw them
off.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, throw him off the scent.
Be like, he wouldn't do that.
He's not
Yeah,
that dumb.
come on, I wouldn't do that. What are you talking about here?
Hmm.
That was like last night. The first the little TikTok on Twitter showed up on from the first 48.
Mm.
You know,
A TikTok on Twitter.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. It said TikTok,
Yeah.
and they just screen recorded it
Yeah.
because they want their own engagements, whatever. But it was a guy on the first 48 who They're like, he's like, I didn't do it. They're like, well, who do you think did? And he started going down this description of the guy. He's like, yeah, he's like 5'8", probably about between 210, 212 pounds, and wears a size 10 shoe. And the detective looks at him like, And then he goes, okay, thank you for this. Is all very helpful. And then he walks out of the room, and the detective goes, size 10 shoe. How does he know what size shoe he wears? And then he goes back and he's like, how do you know what size shoe the guy wore? And he's like, he tried to sell them to me. He's like, but I'm an 11 and a half. It's like, okay, all right. Spoiler alert. That guy was the killer, not the guy he was given the description of. That was one of those ones where he was like, you know what? I'm going to throw him off the scent. I'm going to wear a pair of shoes a size and a half too small so they can't track my footprints. And he went just gave it up too soon. It's like a little kid. That interview was like a little kid.
Yeah.
You just give them a little bit, and they tell you too much.
I saw, speaking of a crime scene after a drunk driving accident, and yeah, the cop plays incredibly nice.
Wait, this was like on TV?
No, this is a real thing. This
Okay,
is a
in real
TikTok.
life.
Yeah,
on TikTok. Okay.
Body cam footage.
Okay, right.
And
So this isn't a real life experience, because I was thinking this was okay.
No.
All right.
Like I saw this one, and it was just like this cop's playing very nice, and something very tragic has clearly happened. And he's like, so, it looks like sounded like she may have had a little bit to drink. Were you guys out drinking? Yes. And like, oh, I'm sorry, it's such a terrible thing. And he just keeps asking the other passenger, and she's just freely giving up everything. And I'm going, wow, that conversational tone is not only going to get you to talk, but it's also going to put your friend in jail for the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's amazing what happens in those situations when...
I feel like that is a situation where you probably should be forthright, though.
Well, I know, but they're look, I'm not saying all cops are bad, but in those instances, like, they're trained to do that.
Yeah.
Because you can take advantage of those emotions and basically get all the information you need, and it doesn't even need to go to trial.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, you're done.
Wah, wah, wah.
It's tough.
Yep, that's brutal.
And that's why you don't do 23andMe.
Yeah, I can't wait till you do it.
I may just order it right now. Do it early. I'm actually super interested now. Don't they usually run like a Christmas deal, like around this time?
I have no idea.
I feel like they do.
It's like, do you wish you had family you could hate? Let 23andMe help find your relatives.
You're feeling a shortage of people around the Thanksgiving dinner table. This Black Friday special.
All right. Let's get this show on the road. We got a lot of football that we have left over from the weekend. We've got some NBA, too, in that this is fine. Everything is fine in Philadelphia. There's nothing to see here.
Good Lord.
Nothing at all to see here. Pay no attention to any of this. All is well. There will be fine. So we've got some NBA, got some college and NFL. Guess where we got to start is, can we be honest about one team in the NFL and treat them the way they should be treated? Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
I met you, there was peace unknown. I set out to get you with a fine-tooth comb. I was soft inside. There was something going on.
I think we need to treat the Dallas Cowboys as they should be treated.
Do something to me that I can't explain.
They are a bad franchise. They are a terrible football team. And they do not deserve to be put on a pedestal until they prove it otherwise.
There's nothing redemptive about them.
They get treated like the LA Dodgers when they are the Angels.
Ooh, that's a bar.
They do. They get treated like they are the Dodgers and they are successful and they are close, and then the team that just can't get over that hump. No, they're closer to the Angels than they are the Dodgers, and we need to treat them like that. It doesn't matter that you are America's team. They haven't done anything in 30 years. They haven't. Actually, the Angels have done more recently, and we criticize the Angels for not doing anything and wasting talent. That's exactly what Dallas does. And yet we treat them as if they are close to getting over the hump. And they're not. They are not. They need to be treated like the Jets get treated.
Which is interesting because as bad as they are, as dysfunctional as they are, they're one of the better drafting teams in the NFL.
So are the Angels.
It's
The Angels had the two best players in all of baseball.
you're not wrong. I think there's something to that, right? Like you look at what they've been able to build over the years. How many guys have come from the outside in?
Like as far as like free agents
Yeah,
and
like
stuff like that.
Been the backbone of their team,
Not many.
or
man.
been that important
Yeah.
to their team.
But like in the same vein though, Joe Douglas just got fired today, Jets general manager.
Mm-hmm.
He has drafted Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Will McDonald, Braylon Allen, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Carter II.
Didn't he also draft big boy up front? D tackle. They just paid all that money to.
No, I think they
Was that the year before?
brought him in. Either that or he didn't draft him. But that's all since 2019. The Jets draft players too.
Yeah. So
But
it's,
they
so it's
overpay-
it's not
but-
like the Raiders or the Browns who have been just abysmal in the draft.
No, like what
It's the other stuff, and it's almost like,
It's-
maybe it's ownership.
they overpay at the wrong times to the wrong people in the wrong positions. They have not been able to develop a quarterback in New York, and yet because the Dallas Cowboys get treated like they are right now the Lions or the Chiefs or the Pittsburgh Steelers, for example, they get treated like they're the Steelers, right?
Mhm.
Traditionally really good, and hey, they're going to be right there at the end. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. They aren't. And there's like this belief that, you know what the Cowboys are going to do? They don't need to be elite at quarterback. Dak Prescott is good enough to do it. He hasn't been.
No. And then you paid him the obscene amount of money. That's the thing about this is
Now, I don't want to trash Dak because I don't think he's a trash quarterback.
no. But they paid him like one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's nowhere near that.
I can't tell you how many times Cowboy fans are like, Dak's top 5, top 10. No, he isn't.
He's not. He's like 11 through 13,
Yep.
14.
And
Like,
that's
he's right. Again, better than most.
That's like the 0.02% of quarterbacks
Yeah.
in the world.
Yes.
He is.
Yes. But the gap between him and what you paid him it's not quite Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
but it might as well be. Because once you commit that money to that guy and he's not that guy, see, I don't know, the Browns,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
everything else falls apart from that. And your actual best player, your franchise changer, and Micah Parsons is the one that you didn't pay.
Sounds like another team in that division.
Hmm.
Sounds like another team in that division. Now the Dallas Cowboys are 0-5 at home.
They've lost 6 straight at home after going 16-1.
Yeah. And also, in those 6 losses, they have trailed by 20 points in all of them.
Mhm.
So they're not just losing, they are getting
Shellacked.
hammered.
And I want to remember it right. In the previous 2 years, they trailed for 227 total minutes. Over the last 5, they have trailed for 272.
I just want to do this out of the one thing out of Monday Night Football is we need to start treating the Cowboys like what they are.
Like a dog water franchise.
Because they are right now.
Yes.
And you mentioned it. Ownership matters and leadership matter. Ownership doesn't matter as much as your front office matters. And in Dallas, the front office and ownership are one and the same. Right? It's
Yes,
Jerry Jones calling the shots.
And
there.
even then, it was like, well, they just got to get rid of Jerry. I'm like, oh, so they can replace him with Steven Jones?
Because ownership has not changed in Detroit. They're figuring it out, right? They bring in Brad Holmes. They get a coach and a GM that are on the same page. They draft and develop and invest their money in the right spots and do it wisely. And they get a coach who can maximize the talent around him. Jerry Jones, as the owner, doesn't want to relinquish any of the power of the organization, so he is still calling the shots, even though he has gotten better at listening to his kids on drafting some of the wild reaches that he used to take. He is actually not making those reaches, but the problem is that he wants a coach that'll be a yes man to him. And
That's always been the case.
And that always has been the case. I mean, he has gone after what got between he and Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy said, no, I want to do it my way. He brought in Bill Parcells to be like, no, see, I can do it. I can have a guy who's a strong-willed person. No, they bickered and fought with each other the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then it's been yes man after yes man, and the results are exactly the same.
But Jason Garrett being the most of that.
Yeah, and it got Jason Garrett to the point where now we're looking at Jason Garrett going, yeah, well, he wasn't that bad. You know? Like, it's getting worse in Dallas. And look, the Dak Prescott injury, obviously that plays a massive role in them looking as bad as they look last night.
But they also, that same team with Dak Prescott had 60 hung on them by the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 5 home games in a row instead of 6, right?
So
that was my one takeaway from Monday Night Football last night is I don't think we learned much about the Houston Texans because they were good heading into that game.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? They're still a very good football team.
Joe Mixon, really good. Did you see the stat that came out of that?
Yeah.
He's now the all-time leader in consecutive road games with 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. He tied Derrick Henry.
Wow, that's good.
5 consecutive road games with at least 100 yards and a touchdown.
Joe Mixon, almost as good at hitting the hole as he is hitting women.
Oh, wow.
Jeez. Off the top rope from the other room.
Lord.
Off the steel cage from the other room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went all mankind on you.
Yeah, I'm not. Golly. No, but they are still a really good football team, and I think we just saw how bad the Dallas Cowboys are.
And really good football teams beat the crap out of dog water teams.
And it's, the one thing that Jerry always used to lean on, and he could lean on, is he's got Jerry's World. Back-to-back bad weeks for Jerry's World. You have the light, blinding CeeDee Lamb in the back of the end zone, and then Jerry gets defensive about it. The very next home game, the ceiling, a la the Kingdom, starts falling apart.
Did you see what the Texans did?
Yes.
For those that did not see it, the Texans social media team used the shape of the piece of metal that fell out of the roof and turned it into an L.
Yikes, dog.
The
Texans
shout out the Texans social media team.
No, the Texans social media team was on one because they did that at the end of the game. Do you see what they did before the game? Finally, a real fight in Arlington this weekend.
Wow.
That's what they did pregame. Obviously, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
To which Cowboy fans applaud you for this one. They were going, nah, this is the same mess we watched on Friday.
Yeah. Also, did you see what they did for the fight?
No.
They closed the curtains.
Oh, yeah, they did to block out the light. They brought in curtains that Jerry said, no, we don't need to do that. Home field advantage. Yeah, they had curtains up.
We always know where the sun is.
Yeah.
Just an insane excuse. Just an insane excuse. Unbelievable.
Oh, man. All right.
Within the rules, if you are the Cowboys and let's say you lose the toss, so you pick the direction, Can you then close the curtains if you have them?
You can't, you can't do it on a drive-by-drive basis.
No.
Right?
But I'm saying knowing that you're going to be going. I'm saying
Yeah.
you win. You win the toss, so you don't get to pick the direction. But can you then close the curtain so that you?
As long as you keep them closed.
Yeah, but like you take away the advantage that you
I
may
think
have
you
against
can.
them, but you make sure that you don't have it against you in the fourth.
I believe you can. I
It
mean,
just
that's
has to
like
be the same for both, right?
Yeah, that's like exactly. It has to be the same for both teams. So as long as you do that at the beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't have the curtains closed and then be like, you know what, fourth quarter they're going into it.
Open 'em
you
up.
know what we're gonna do? We're gonna open those.
It's awful
things up.
nice outside. Let's
Yeah.
let a little breeze in here.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Hmm.
That was one thing that the Cincinnati Bengals always used to be accused of doing. They would apparently they would open the gates on one end of the stadium
Oh, let the wind through.
and let the wind just howl out through the stadium. And
Which, if you let it go down that tunnel, it basically just turns it into an actual wind tunnel, and it just flies through the stadium.
I think that was when they played the Chargers, Dan Fouts and the Chargers. They were accused of opening the gates and letting the wind through.
I mean,
solid move.
yeah,
That's it. That used to be back when home field advantages
we're actual
truly made by the groundskeepers.
Mm-hmm. Water in the field, getting a little thick, maybe cutting it shorter because you're faster. Like, I kind of like those days.
The Patriots bringing out the blowers on the yard lines and
Around the kicker.
yeah. Well, not that against the Raiders. That was the players, but you would just go out. In the 80s they did that. They brought out the blower on the turf and just blowed off the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Like those were the good old days.
I do miss those days.
It's a home field advantage for bring your own blowers, guys.
Or the playing in Oakland and playing in the baseball diamond, getting tackled in the middle of second base
And feces.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Because that has happened
what
in
a
Oakland.
hellhole.
Mm-hmm.
That stadium's so bad.
Yeah. Well, they're keeping it.
Yeah. What is Oakland gonna do with that?
They're playing soccer there. Remember?
Yeah, I know.
That's what they're doing.
Oof.
Good for them.
Okay.
Good for them.
Go with God.
All right. Let's treat the Cowboys as such. All right. Until they have to prove it. Can we make a gentleman's agreement on that? Everybody out here, can we do a handshake or a head nod, and just say, all right, we're done with you. You got to prove it. We're not going to do this next year. I don't want to hear the Cowboys are going to be better next year. No, until they actually do something about it, they should be treated like the franchise that they are, which is a winless at home 3-7 team. We need to treat them like the other 3-7 teams. They have the same record as the Carolina Panthers right now. They have a worse record than the Cincinnati Bengals, which are being ripped apart right now. And it's like, hey, yeah, they got a chance. No, they don't.
The
No,
NFL
they
version
don't.
of Texas is back.
It truly is. It truly is. Right now, it doesn't seem like they're treated like the 3-8 Jets or the 3-8 Patriots.
When they very much are in the same water.
Right now, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And I hope that they get the number 1 pick, and they're like, oh boy. Do we draft Shador? Do we draft Shador?
Well, so what's funny is I was playing some 2K with a couple of my buddies last night. One of them's
And hired Dion?
huge Cowboys fan.
Des Bryant wants to.
And it's in the third quarter, and he's like, "What are we doing, man? What are we doing?" I'm like, I think that Cooper Rush had just thrown a pass that was almost intercepted, and I'm like, "Buddy, you want this." The best thing for you right now is to literally lose every game. He's like, well, a draft pick's not going to change what we are next year. I'm like, this isn't about next year. This is about the future of your franchise. I don't think you understand. You're cooked. The next couple years, you're going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way out of this. You don't have a Danny Dimes injury clause that you can work your way through. You've got money sunk into CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. You're screwed.
You're dunzo.
You want as many high draft picks as you can get over the next couple years to help you transition into the next era because you're stuck.
Yeah, you're bad right now.
Is there any team in the NFL more stuck than them right now?
Yes, there is one. We'll get to that coming up next. Danny and Dusty, here's Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Big's Chicken. Try their smoked and fried wings tossed with a perfect dry rub and served with a trio of killer sauces. Menus at bigschicken.com. First on the fan, the Trailblazers off for another day before starting their 5-game road trip in Oklahoma City tomorrow night against the Thunder. The trip also including stops in Houston for a back-to-back against the Rockets, and then tilts at the Grizzlies and Pacers. Portland is 6-8 on the season, but winners of 3 in a row. They are tied for the 10th worst record in the league. A TNT doubleheader tonight as NBA Cup play continues. First up, the 15-0 Cavs. They're at TD Garden to face the Celtics. 4 o'clock tip. Boston are 5.5-point favorites. That's followed by the West leading Thunder at the Spurs. That's around 6:30. The Thunder are 9.5-point favorites. 7 weeks after firing head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas. The Jets 30-64 under Douglas, with neither a winning season nor a playoff appearance. Former Browns general manager Phil Savage has been named interim GM. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
right, you asked the question, is there a team that is in a worse situation than the Dallas Cowboys right now? Financially, right?
Just
Yeah.
who has a more bleak future than the Cowboys?
Yeah, Cleveland.
Oh boy.
Cleveland is 2-8. They are sunk into Deshaun Watson with fully guaranteed contract. Full tilt boogie on that thing. And you can't get out of it.
No.
You can't get out of it. And they're in a killer division. They're going to be just buried at the bottom. And maybe that killer division is actually what benefits the Browns more than it hurts the Cowboys. Because, look, the Cowboys still have the Giants in their division, where the Giants are a rudderless ship. That, look, you make the argument that the Giants are in an equally bad spot, but no, they're not, because they can get off of Daniel Jones this year, and that's why they benched him for Tommy DeVito, is because Drew Lock could probably win you some games. Tommy DeVito probably not going to, and boy, does that craptastic Thanksgiving Day game really take a turn when you have Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito.
Stinky.
That's your nap That's your nap game on Thanksgiving, by the way.
Yeah,
That's your nap game.
Oh yeah, in the past that's been a game you're like, oh, traditional, Cowboys.
That's your tryptophan
Giants.
coma.
No, that I don't even know if you have that one on in the background.
Yeah, you put it on because this is America, obviously, right? I mean, it's America.
Do we have any college football on that day?
Yeah, yes, there's always a game, but that's the 1:30 game. So I mean, hey, that's actually good. Like, have the early Thanksgiving dinner.
I'm gonna check right now.
You get Bears Lions in the morning.
I want to, which is,
and then you have
could be good.
Dolphins Packers at night.
Thanksgiving's the 20.
It is the 28th,
right?
Yeah. The
So
28th.
Memphis Tulane 4:30.
Pacific. I mean you get yeah. You can turn off the second half. Usually the Egg Bowl is that day.
Let me take a look. Maybe I only had it as ranked. No, that's it, man. I
Really?
only got one game.
We're not playing the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving, huh?
Let me refresh all of FBS 1A. Yep, Thursday the 28th.
it.
Memphis Tulane.
I don't like it. That's the only one.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing to us. I don't like that. I don't like that.
We
at
got
all.
so much Friday football.
Yeah.
So much Friday football.
Oregon State, Boise State.
My goodness.
Oklahoma State at Colorado. That
Ole
game's
Miss,
not
Mississippi
great.
State.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And NFL
That's
on
the Egg
Black
Bowl.
Friday too.
yeah, you do.
Yeah, I have come back around in the NFL. I was not. It was not that I lost my love with football. I think the Raiders basically just made me fall out of love with football for a little while there.
Yeah, they'll do
It
that.
was tough. I have come back around on football. Stop with the Christmas Day. Stop with the Friday. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. They want to go all 7 days. I need a break. I would rather have the ability to switch between a couple of games on at the same time than to have it on all week.
Yeah. Wait. No.
I don't want it on every day.
Action.
No, NFL. I don't want NFL on every day.
Yeah, I agree with that. Give me Sunday. Give me Sunday, Monday. Thursday night football has come around.
Yeah,
I've come
no,
around
Thursday
night.
Thursday-
But Friday, no.
Friday,
Christmas,
no. Saturday, no.
I think this is your NBA coming out on the Christmas Day games.
I don't
and
like
I
it.
tend to agree with you.
I don't
on
like
that.
it.
I'm with.
Yeah.
I stand in solidarity.
David Stern would have murdered Roger Goodell for doing this.
Yeah, but
Adam Silver has no balls.
I think Roger Goodell would have looked at David Stern and said, "What are you really gonna do?
He would have killed him.
What are you really gonna do?
Like murdered.
Nothing. I also put this the Vancouver Ford text line 503-864-6326. Your dollar goes further on Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them online at vancouverford.com. P1 Jordan. This is another team that I think could very easily be in the exact same boat as the Cowboys. It's the Saints. They're in a really bad spot. Cap situation is hard to get past, and most of the names you recognize are old. They are going to be really, really bad next year. I think heading into this year, they're $96 million over the salary cap for next year. Heading into this year, $96 million over for next year. Is that? I think that's
That
the
sounds
number.
bad.
That's going to be, you're going to have to make, as they say, some tough decisions there for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah,
Let's look at 2025 cap.
that's a lot.
Cap space heading into next year. New England Patriots, $139 million. Maybe you can get a wide receiver. The Saints, it's $77.2 million. They're over the cap. They're over the cap. And by the way, if you think of it in these terms, most teams have like between 35 and 40 people on their roster for next year. The New Orleans Saints have 49 guys on their roster for next year already. And $77 million. And if you look at their average age of their team,
Old as dirt.
27.6 years old. That is the 6th oldest roster heading into next year. The 49ers are the oldest, then the Jets, then the Steelers, Browns, Panthers. And that's another one with the Browns, too. They've got the 4th oldest roster in the NFL going into next year.
Who's the young guy on that? And that's the thing when you talk about like this Cowboys team, too.
You got CD, baby. Parsons is entering his 2nd deal, so he's still young.
But, I mean, so much of that team is not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though they've drafted well, it's...
See where the Cowboys are right there. They're right in the meaty part. They're 20th in age for next year. 20th.
So
it's not great.
No. And then I think you're seeing some commonalities in here that are popping up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Craptastic ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very poor decisions at the highest ends of the roster. You're looking at the things that will immediately cripple your franchise. The most crippling decisions. And this is what I've kind of said as far as the percentage of cap stuff with it's pertained to wide receivers or quarterbacks. You cannot overpay a quarterback. You can't. You can. It is the quickest way to kill your team. The next quickest way to do that is to overspend on a wide receiver.
Yeah, well, I would say the next quickest way is to let a young quarterback go.
Who has done that though? Who has?
I know nobody, but think of it in terms of like, had Josh Allen done enough? Remember Josh Allen's first couple of years in the NFL?
Well, his first year was
people were ready
atrocious.
To sell on Josh Allen, right? And then it was like, can they prove it? And his deal was still, that's a dicey one, right? The Chargers with Justin Herbert. Herbert's playing really damn well right now. And it was like, did they overpay for Justin Herbert? It's like, no. If you have a young quarterback, you have to keep him. But teams get caught up with the guys who are on the fringe.
He got paid after year 3, didn't he? In the Giants, remember when Daniel Jones got his deal? It was after they won a playoff game. I'm trying to find when Josh Allen got his deal.
That was a bad deal by the New York Giants, though. It was a really bad deal.
Because the Josh Allen one, I think, is a very good spark point because he was not good his rookie year. And then year 2, he showed mild growth. And you're like, you're kind of seeing this. Like,
and year 3,
it was like, whoa. And I think that's when they paid him. And I think that like you can make the argument for the progression. It wasn't bad, great. It was really bad. Hey, there's growth. Year 3, oh crap. Yeah. And I think that's different than the handing money out to Daniel Jones, handing money out to Dak Prescott at that level. And I think that's the thing. Like, I know the whole scared money don't make money thing. I would much rather, like, I think the closest one you can come to this of in recent memory is Jordan Love. Him getting paid early. And I think he was like, I don't know. Do you want to pay him right now? Turned out to work out really well for him. Mm-hmm. But I would argue that there's significantly more teams that get that wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I think if you divorce yourself from all of it, which is very difficult to do, because you're talking about getting hired or fired. Like that's
well, in this that's the big thing right there is because if you don't pay that quarterback, the GM gets canned.
Yeah.
And so the GM pushes to pay that quarterback because he wants to save his ass because then it justifies
it buys a couple years.
We made the right move instead of saying, nope, didn't do it right. We're gonna pull the ripcord on this.
Which is what more ownership should be willing to do.
And allow the GM to keep his job, though, because the GM is the guy who does that. And that is also a slippery slope, too, because if you start firing GMs left and right, then you become the Jets.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point. Is like if you allow them to make a mistake. Now, if you start piling up mistakes, that can't go either. But the way that we talk about quarterbacks specifically, it's like this exact science. It's just not. And so it's like you're going to hinge everything on that. I don't know, man. I just think that holistically we need to be better about how we do this stuff.
Impossible science.
And not only that, the idea of how team building. Look at the teams that have done it through multiple eras. What is the thing that you can consistently say, even when they make mistakes? The Steelers haven't gotten their quarterback situation right over year after year after year. They've gotten it right once. How many front office executives have they gone through?
No, and that is it, though. They hire the right people because you can put the pieces around them and keep them intact.
Green Bay.
And that, it was not the right move to give Daniel Jones all the money. But the rest of the roster was good enough to win at that time. And they went to pay him, and they were like, oh, crap, now we can't figure out how to keep an offensive line.
Do anything else.
And and that's where you get caught. You get got, baby.
And that's why I think you just...
The teams that draft mid and late round are the best ones. Packers, Steelers, they thrive there.
It's crazy. Like
the Chiefs,
imagine,
the Chiefs are in there, and I'll put Philly in there too.
As good as Malik Neighbors is, as good as he is, right? Imagine if they didn't pay Daniel Jones and he got the franchise tag, right? Everything they keep Saquon, he gets franchise tag, and instead of going into that draft,
they would have been they would have been in a worse spot with their offensive line than they are right now, because if you would have tagged Saquon or you would have given Saquon the money and tagged Daniel Jones, your cap's screwed
for a year.
Yeah, but that year your offensive line was already bad. It would have gotten worse.
Oh no, what I'm saying is you do that and then you head into that draft with the same record, and you still have, but now you're
but they wouldn't have had Neighbors because they would have had to go offensive line because you need cheap offensive linemen.
That's my point. As good as Neighbors is, you're going down a different path, and holistically, aren't you in a better spot going forward?
I don't know. I don't, because is Saquon Barkley as good with a bad offensive line?
You can make that argument.
You're
not wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's the sliding door side of this, where right now you're like, oh God, at least they had the financial out with Daniel Jones, right?
Yeah.
But if they had gone down another path and they were able to open things up and go, hey, we're kicking the can in a way that makes sense.
I think they just backed themselves into a lose-lose corner.
Probably.
And they lost. They lost big, especially because Saquon Barkley's doing what he's doing now.
Good Lord. Jumping over guys backwards.
All right, 503-864-6326. That's the Vancouver Ford text line. He's back. Next. The Oregon Ducks offense has missed number 15 since he went down with an injury against the University of Michigan on the opening drive. And Tez Johnson posted on his Instagram a photo of him in uniform with "He's back." Tez Johnson appears to be returning to practice for the Oregon Ducks.
Dun, dun, dun.
What that means for Oregon moving forward, I don't know if it means that we're going to see Tez Johnson in a game against Washington, right? A return to practice is great, but you're now looking at it as a return. This is obviously really good for a return for the Big Ten championship game, which is initially what Dan Lanning said was kind of that target for Tez to be at. When you have a bye week this week and he can have a ramp-up week. And look, we've seen guys, how many times have you seen the reports of, reporters that cover the Oregon program saying we were able to see so-and-so in pads at practice and we don't see him in a game that week, right? We saw so-and-so.
Week after week after week after week after week.
Boom. Yeah. Like it was like a month and a half ago. It was, hey, Gary Bryant Jr. is returned to practice, right? We didn't see him until 2 weeks ago. And so I don't know the ramp up in the cautiousness in which Oregon uses with injuries. They know that they have depth and they know they have talent. They are extra cautious. It's better to have a guy healthy than rush a guy back who's limited and then he gets hurt again, right? And so having him back in any capacity at practice, that's a bump and a boost no matter what. I think it is a great sign for, the best case scenario with that injury that he had at Michigan. It is coming to fruition. A lot of people, myself included, were worried about a collarbone type injury.
Mm-hmm.
You don't come back from that in 3 weeks.
No.
So that is really good news. That does kind of lead you to believe that maybe it was like a sprained AC joint type situation where he misses that week of practice up to Maryland, misses the week of practice leading up to Wisconsin, and then boom, you're back and getting back in the swing of things. If it is like an AC joint, you pop that thing wrong once, you're back to square one though.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be super cautious with him. The good thing is they have a bye week this week, and maybe we do see him against Washington.
This sounds super similar to Shaden Sharp in the sense of you want to be super careful with it, but like I've talked to people around the league and I've talked to various doctors and, they all say the same thing. Like, look, I haven't seen his medicals, but anytime you're dealing with a shoulder, there's like a 99% chance like you're going to need some sort of surgery to repair something. It's just, can you get through whatever it is you're doing and get to the off season? Like if Tez or if Shaden takes a bad shot and lands awkwardly or something along that line, you might re-aggravate it. It might lead to the thing that goes, rip, it's done. But you're not going to do anything worse to it in a sense. Does that even if it does require surgery, it's like you're going to have some kind of like little cleanup, especially if you're talking.
I don't think that with him. I don't think that's it because like Shaden has a labrum injury.
Yes, and
that's like your shoulder popping out.
And not only that,
that's
like
different.
if you're going
to have surgery.
If you have some sort of labral tear, no matter how small, labrums don't fix themselves. They have to be repaired.
Yep.
But what I'm saying with Tez is like, if it had been something like that,
you're right.
Like that's kind of the world you're living in. So if you're looking at it like that, you're like, he can't do anything more to it.
Yeah, and I don't think the way that he was just kind of carrying something didn't look like that because you dangle your arm instead of grab it and hold up. Who knows though? He's back at practice. That's great. And look, the reality of it is, with the win at Wisconsin, the Washington game is. Win or lose in that game, obviously you want to win, and I think there's a lot within him that he wants to win that game after last year, and losing twice to UW. But the result of that game does not really change the path and trajectory of Oregon when you look at they're still going to the Big Ten championship game. That game is more important.
Yes.
And that's where you really hold the cards of what your season looks like moving forward because you win the Big Ten championship game and you are a top 4 seed in the college football playoff. You get a bye, and if you don't, then you're playing and you're hoping that you get a home game and you're the 5th seed in the college football playoff, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the one that holds more gravity. It'll be interesting to see how Oregon plays this with Tez Johnson and his injury.
Played safe.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. Just don't get hurt any worse.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one. All right, 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. Hour number 2, we got our worst day on the web will be here. We will also talk some NBA because this is fine. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Absolutely nothing at all. But let's talk some Beavs. We didn't talk any Beavs yesterday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a tough one, man.
Oh, no.
Danny Dusty on the Fan.
Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on the Fan, the Trailblazers off for another day before starting their 5-game road trip in Oklahoma City tomorrow night against the Thunder. The trip also has stops in Houston for a back-to-back against the Rockets and tilts at the Grizzlies and Pacers. Portland 6-8 on the season. They are tied for the 10th worst record in the league. TNT's got a doubleheader tonight as NBA Cup play continues. First up, the 15-0 Cavaliers at TD Garden to face the Celtics. That's a 4 o'clock tip. Boston are 6-point favorites, and then that's followed by the West-leading Thunder at the Spurs, tipping around 6:30. Oklahoma City are 10-point favorites in that one. And 7 weeks after firing head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas. The Jets were 30-64 under Douglas with neither a winning season nor a playoff appearance. Former Browns general manager Phil Savage has been named interim GM. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Got a smart speaker? It's The Fan in your office and every room of your home. Tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Beavs, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Hour number 2, Danny and Dusty with you on this glorious Tuesday. A wet one. It's a wet week. A lot of snow up in the mountains. If
Oh my
you're
God.
if you're a person that loves mountaining,
So much bleeping snow.
yeah, all the snow, which is good.
I'm sure that's what Tony Montana said.
Who's up back now?
So
Who's
much
up
snow.
back now?
But yeah, no, I don't know about you. I was running some errands last night,
You were.
and it was cold as hell out. I got in the car, my car said 39 degrees, and I was like, "What is this?"
What?
Yeah, I was like, I went out. I let the dogs out late last night. I want to say 11:30 midnight or so.
Who let the dogs out?
Roo, roo, roo.
You beat me to it.
But I when it's real dark out there, because one of our lights in the backyard, like it doesn't pick the dogs up all that often. The little timer or the IR thing.
Mhm.
So I'll use my cell phone light so they can see. There were like flakes falling in the rain,
Yeah. Well, there's a big hailstorm when I was driving.
and I was like, "Oh, I don't like this."
I was driving from here to Old Banks yesterday, and between like Cornell, Bethany, and 185th on Highway 26, it was a whiteout. It was like
Of hail.
hail, like big old hail everywhere. Cars were pulling over to the side, which that's the right move. If you can't handle it, move off to the side. It's okay. It's okay. Safety first.
Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
that part of Beaverton
Mhm.
/ regional Beaverton.
That's unincorporated Washington County.
Yeah. In elevation there anywhere from 700 to 1,000 feet.
See, there you go.
So you're rising up there.
There you go.
You're not quite hitting the full.
Rising up.
But you think about that. From there to the waterfront is 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Because waterfront is
You go over
quite
Sylvan
literally
Hill.
sea level.
All
a
right. Safety first. Oregon State.
Speaking of safety first,
Uh,
know what you're getting into before you turn on the game.
that was a tough one, man.
Look, man. Coming into this season, it looked like my Falcons were gonna be a decent little academy squad.
They're not.
They have underperformed drastically based on expectations.
Yeah.
They are not good, and they're very injured. And they humiliated Oregon State.
28-0 was the score.
I mean, playing academies, it's its own beast. It is. But my God, you got embarrassed by the worst academy this year, and they don't have a guy that breaks your back like Army and Navy do.
Yeah. I mean, that was about as bad as it could go for Oregon State. Especially when you have the game start the way it did with one of those death march drives, right? A true academy drive. You go 11 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, and then you go 3 and out. Like that was it. 18 plays run in the first half for Oregon State. 18.
Oh man.
Period. That's
The word you're looking for is gross.
It was, and that was one of those games where for Oregon State, you're like, this year was about, all right, can we build hope? Can we keep hope alive? Can we keep some sort of momentum going in the right direction? Because it was all heading in a positive direction last year before Jonathan Smith left, right? Even with the future of the conference in flux, you were like, hey, we've got a coach, we've got talent that we have developed here. And obviously, Jonathan Smith leaving and the mass exodus that followed, that hurt Oregon State. But then you come out the start of the year and you start 4-1. And because of all the defections, the war of attrition was going to be one that Oregon State was not going to be able to win. They needed to stay healthy, and they needed to be healthy in order for them to sustain success. And the amount of injuries they got, starting really in that second game of the year against San Diego State, and then they continued to pile up against Oregon, and then you started to see slowly the wheels were falling off despite 2 wins after that Oregon game. And this was far and away the lowest point that you've seen from this Oregon State team. Because 28-0, the fact that you could not get anything going, it did not look like you were in rhythm in any sense really throughout the course of the game. That's a tough pill to swallow if you're if you're the Beavs. You only throw for 106 yards. You rush for 69, which is nice. But at 2.9 yards per carry, you accumulated 177 yards of offense. That leaves you with a tough, bitter taste in your mouth, right? You take into account penalty yards, where you had 3 for 25, clean game, academy game, clean game. The success just wasn't there. 2 of 10 on third down, 1 of 4 on fourth down. The offense is anemic right now. And for Trent Bray, he has a monumental task ahead of him, because it is to keep this thing on the rails, and it starts with that belief.
No, I don't think anything. I mean, there's been some different things. I mean, where we're playing with a lot of guys that at the time.
It stopped. It stopped.
You know, as coaches, you definitely have to. I've always said as a coach, you know, the players' successes are theirs and their failures are ours. So we gotta look at it that way. You know, how do we continue to improve as coaches as well? Because that's definitely it's never just on the coaches, on the players. It's a group, and we all win and lose together. So we all have to look at what do we need to get better at. Whether I'm a coordinator, and how am I setting up the game plan and calling in game? Is that giving us the best chance for success? Then at each position group, you know, what are the things that I'm teaching them that we're not getting done that I got to make sure I emphasize more? That's a constant process. That again, when you lose, like we've lost the last 5 weeks, it's never just one thing, and it's certainly not just the players. So absolutely, I challenge myself and the coaches to come up with a better way to get these guys to perform at the level we know they're capable of.
I appreciate that out of Trent.
How you've lost the last 5 weeks.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep. I mean, it's been rough is an understatement, because just looking at the way, when you say that, the way that we've lost the last 5 weeks, that takes into account the first one of this losing streak was that game against Nevada where didn't McCoy have 4 interceptions in that game, but you still had a chance. Even you had a puncher's chance to win that game at the end, and you were on the road. And then UNLV, which is now a ranked team, you lose by a score to UNLV. And then it really was the Cal game where the wheels started to fall off of this team. And I appreciate, though, Trent Bray, you know, it's what we're doing as coaches too, right? Like when you have the failures pile up the way that they have with this team this year, well, this week especially, there was no good out of it. Like Air Force had the ball for 41 minutes.
Yeah, and you had Marysville, Washington's own Dylan Carson ran the ball himself more than Oregon State did.
Yeah. That was this is a tough time. Outgain, you not just in the run game, you expect to get out rushed by Air Force, but they threw for more yards than you. They pick up 23 first downs to your 9 first downs in the entire game.
They death marched you for 45 minutes.
I think it was 1 first down in the first half. Is that right?
It was 28-0. The only thing that underscores is that Air Force doesn't have the athletes to punch it in over and over and over again. That's like, you're lucky that Air Force doesn't have a guy like Army or Navy does right now, because you might have had 50 hung up on you because they couldn't stop them.
That game was discouraging.
Yeah.
By any and every measure for Oregon State.
With the way the season started, and yes, the battle of attrition and all that, like, there's no excuse to losing the Air Force. There's just not.
Well, yeah.
There's not. There's no.
Not like that.
Not like this.
Not like that.
No.
Not like that.
No. Look,
I mean,
they
support the troops.
Look, an academy team, can be good. Look at Army and Navy this year. Yeah. They can be good. They can be disruptive. They can be a real pain in the rear. But when they're not, and they don't have a dude back there that is killing you, and you still get dog walked like this, there's no looking at what Air Force did. It's looking at what you couldn't do.
This is a
in
the mirror game.
Yeah, that is all this is. And look, B fans, I know you guys are mad at me because I'm USC guy and blah, 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 blah. I got nothing but love for you. I want you guys to end up on your feet. I want you to do well. This is this is bad. Like this is really, really bad.
Bleak. Bleak.
The only way this is worse is if you're losing to like App State. Legitimately.
No, App State's a bowl team. Not anymore.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
like you're losing to an FCS
Idaho
team.
State.
Yeah, like that's
that one actually. This one did feel it was comparable, and it felt like the Eastern Washington loss.
Yeah.
All right. Brighter days ahead. As Orange Joe guy says, baseball season's right around the corner. Right?
let's hope
Basketball
they're-
team's playing.
let's hope they're good.
All right. It could be worse. You could be Philly.
Ugh.
Next on the Fan. The Philadelphia 76ers are in last place in the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey have yet to play on the floor together.
Mildly problematic.
That seems bad. They are 2-11, and they lost Monday. That would be yesterday. To the Miami Heat, 106-89. Boy. Now we have reports that there was a team meeting. Your players-only meetings, always good. Even better this early in the season. But apparently the buzz coming out of that locker room following that team meeting was Tyrese Maxey going at Joel Embiid for his leadership and his punctuality. Apparently, Maxey called out Embiid because Embiid has been late several times to team events, practice, everything associated with the 76ers. Embiid injured, working his way back, but also not really taking things all too seriously in Tyrese Maxey's mind.
Look, this is something that when things are going good, it's Joel. He's eccentric. He's, he never is there on time. He's always the last to arrive. He likes to make an entrance. When things are going bad, Joel doesn't care. It's, he's disrespectful to other people's feelings, blah, blah. It's eye of the beholder stuff. I'm a lunatic when it comes to the whole, being late to stuff. It makes my skin crawl. I do not like it. I will never, ever, ever be late to I don't like it. No, hard pass. It bothers me when people are late to stuff and hold everything else up. It's one of those things, though, that when it piles up, it's very easily one of the first things you'd be like, can you just get somewhere on time? Can that just be a thing? And for those that don't know behind the scenes, there are a lot of players in the NBA that are like this.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a lot of people in general that are like this. Yeah.
Look, without throwing any names out there of young players, none currently on the team, but over the last couple of years, there were some guys that people loved and were just tardy as hell and just got in trouble and got fined and had to deal with and that happens all over the league. And a lot of it is young kids being irresponsible. Your MVP not setting the standard and setting the tone, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a problem. Tyrese Maxey, did you see the way the 76ers rolled out the red carpet for him when they gave him his extension?
No.
Oh my God. They set up a whole exhibit with the city. They had former Philadelphia 76ers legends and they had them a walk-through exhibit of did you see what the Nike, I think it was Nike did it for Victor Wembanyama when they had the interactive displays. Yeah. They did the same kind of thing for Tyrese Maxey. He means a lot. No. He means a lot to that organization as the culture, the heart
Didn't the Clippers do that with Blake Griffin, then trade him?
Yeah.
They raised his number, retired his number at his extension. Yeah. No, they literally did it and said this is what's gonna happen, and then traded him that year or the next year. The next year.
6 months later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, new front office. That'll happen.
Whoop.
Yeah. But no, they love Tyrese Maxey. He's universal approval rating, right? And he loves Joel. But I think when you're looking at everything, you can't get the big picture right until you get the little things right.
Yeah.
And look, they could have kept this quiet, but they wanted it out there.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, as part of the reporting, Embiid accepted the criticism. I mean, when you're notoriously late, those people often do say, "Oh yeah, really sorry." Then nothing really ever changes. No. Something's got to change there.
He was abysmal last night.
But wasn't he sick?
Yeah. Look, I'm a big Joel Embiid guy because the talent is otherworldly.
Yeah.
But it's not Zion yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, it's not Zion because he won an MVP.
Yeah, and then, his production, and look, and a lot of the same criticisms hold true for Joel, as far as being in shape and
availability. Best ability is availability.
And when you're huffing and puffing up and down the floor, the whole point of having Tyrese and having Paul George is some of that burden can be taken off of you, but doesn't mean you can't stop delivering. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's a worse story in the NBA right now as far as oh my God, if it's the Bucks, if it's the 76ers, or if it's the Pelicans. You have three stories in those three organizations for very different reasons. They're all in awful, awful spots.
It does appear that Milwaukee's playing a little better.
We'll see.
Damon Giannis had a night.
They should. They should. That's the problem, right?
They should have multiple nights.
Every night should be a night. And so, but.
All right.
Yeah, I don't really know what you do with that.
All right, which team are you out on the most then? The Cavaliers at 15-0 who play the Celtics tonight?
Is it weird that I think they might win tonight?
The Cavs?
Yeah. They've
No.
got so much good juju going, man. Like it. When I talk about coaching in the NBA, where it matters the most is putting the right people in the right spots to be the most impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Atkinson might be the best in the NBA at that.
He's doing a good job, man.
It's why he took those Brooklyn Nets teams that were just kind of like the ragtag.
That were supposed to do nothing, and
Yeah.
then they
They're a playoff
treated
team.
him so poorly.
Oh yeah, no, they threw him out the door because Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving didn't want that. Yeah.
Well, he's got a team that believes in him now. He's doing a really good job. 15-0.
Mm-hmm.
15-0.
Best start in franchise history.
Yeah, one of the best starts in NBA history.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
It allows for when the injuries do start hitting, for you to absorb quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
Runway.
yeah. All right, coming up next, it's time for our worst day on the web. Got a couple different ones to go with you. I teased a couple that I didn't get yesterday. One of which, if you leave your drugs behind, don't go back and ask somebody if you can help you find them.
Oh, okay.
Just throwing that out there. We'll get to that more coming up on our worst day on the web. But first, just a big Kahuna Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Big Ten announced Oregon has officially clinched a spot in the conference championship game, stating there are no scenarios where the Ducks will not finish either number 1 or number 2. In the association, the Trailblazers off for another day before starting their 5-game road trip in Oklahoma City tomorrow night against the Thunder. The trip also includes stops in Houston for a back-to-back against the Rockets and in Memphis and Indianapolis. Portland 6-8 on the season. Winners of 3 in a row. They're tied for the 10th worst record in the league. TNT's got a doubleheader tonight as NBA Cup play continues. First up, those 15-0 Cavaliers at TD Garden to face the Celtics. 4 o'clock tip. Boston are 6-point favorites. That's followed by the West-leading Thunder at the Spurs. Tip for that one will be around 6:30. Oklahoma City are 10-point favorites. And in the NFL, 7 weeks after firing head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas. The Jets 30-64 under Douglas with neither a winning season nor a playoff appearance. Former Browns general manager Phil Savage has been named interim GM. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Auto accident, worried about
It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Oh, really? That sucks.
Stupid criminal stories are some of my absolute favorites. Like, just the best. You want to go to England and hear about some stupid criminals?
Absolutely, I do.
So these two dingleberries, they left a giant bag of ketamine on a train.
What is ketamine?
Little Special K?
Yeah, what is it?
It's a shuts you down. What do they call it? Not a depressant. God dang it.
Barbiturate?
Yes, I believe it's a barbiturate.
What'd you call me?
Mm-hmm. All right.
But yeah, they left a whole bag of it.
Okay.
A whole bag of it, and like it looks like a gallon Ziploc bag full. Like that's what it looks like. That turns out to be only between 25 and 50,000, which seems like a wide number.
Oh, it's an anesthetic.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it like
knocks you out.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's why I thought it was a barbiturate. So I was wrong on that one. But it that was just the kind of the beginning of this. So they left it on a train, and they contacted the folks on the train, the security personnel, to help them find it.
Yeah. Hey, can you find my bags of illegal drugs?
Can you find my drugs?
Yeah. Can you find my ketamine?
Which,
Yikes.
Yikes, dog.
So they say, yeah, we found it. Why don't you come on down?
Basically, yeah, and they'd already contacted the cops because they found a bag of drugs, and they're like, this doesn't look medicinal.
That is the worst.
Dude, again, stupid criminal stories.
But or the best. It's the best.
This was in November of 2019. Okay.
Okay.
The reason why we're talking about this now is an investigation went on for 4 years. They basically let this guy. They like, oh yeah, here you go. They let it go, and they followed him, and they built this whole case on him, and it turned out
through COVID.
Like
I think the statute of limitations should reset after like pre and post COVID world. I don't remember anything in 2019.
No, these guys were apparently part of a large drug smuggling ring from Portugal into England. After a 4-year investigation, they arrested one of the guys last week and found drugs and drug paraphernalia, several cell phones, and more than $2,000 in cash. They discovered he and his partner were central figures of a major organized crime ring that imported drugs from Portugal.
The country, not the man.
Yeah. They ended up being charged with counts of conspiracy to supply cocaine and MDMA, Molly. 5 counts of conspiracy to supply ketamine and cannabis, and were jailed for 6 years and 3 months.
They never saw it coming.
No, they also were charged with conspiracy to supply cocaine, MDMA, 3 counts of conspiracy to supply cannabis on top of that, and another one of ketamine with a count of possession with intent to supply cannabis. Another 5 years and 10 months was added on top of that.
It took them this long to build this case, though. Like, it feels like there was probably a lot of bad that was done before they
in that
actually...
4-year period?
Yeah.
And not only that, like, they found him with a kilo of marijuana. Which, look, I'm not judging you. Some of you listening right now probably have in your homes.
Yeah, I don't know how much that is. It's a brick?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Again, we all know somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We all know somebody.
You just got to keep living, man.
Yeah.
LIVIN.
We all know those people.
We all know. Like, look, is it an overabundance? Yeah.
Yeah,
but they got a deal on it somewhere, or it fell off the back of a truck.
God, that's going to take you like 2 days to go through.
Right?
That's funny. The Vancouver Forward text line, ketamine was used originally as a horse tranquilizer, I believe. Works good on people too, not that I know from experience.
Yeah.
That text coming in. Yeah, I don't like that's like down the lines of like cattle steroids too. It's like, well, good for a horse, good for me. That is a bold move
I
to be
mean-
the first person that's like, yeah, I'll give that a whirl.
Turned out they weren't wrong.
They weren't. They weren't.
Turns out it was like the purest form of testosterone you could get.
Yeah, yeah. Those race horses were jacked up on it for years.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that turns out that worked. But again, this is your stupid criminal case. I wanted to keep this going a step further because this also happened in the UK. Look, I don't know how this happens, but I'm just scrolling through and I'm reading through my international papers and such
Yeah.
to find my headlines because those are usually the best. A kid showed up to show and tell. What did you think would be one of the worst things to bring to show and tell?
Well, outside of like a gun.
You're not far off.
Yeah.
Y'all want to buy some drugs?
Not that direction.
Yeah, I think those two are probably the worst. But I saw I saw one of those Instagram little comedy bits there where kid brought one of mom's toys to
Oh no.
to show and tell. I think that would be pretty bad. I think that might be.
Was it a lightsaber that vibrated?
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
a massager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be the worst.
Oh God. Can you imagine
I guess
being
can
a
also
teacher
be called a weapon.
and like you don't pre-clear it and like I brought this.
Yeah, my kids did not have show and tell. Like neither one of my children had show and tell.
Really?
Like yeah, they didn't do it at their school. Yeah, neither one of them.
Did you have a career day?
No.
Interesting.
Not yet, at least. No, none of that.
That's weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my oldest, like her kindergarten year was the first year. It was COVID.
Oh yeah, so you don't
The
you don't bring
2019-20
anything
school
in.
year.
Yeah.
And
that
so,
probably
like,
distorted
that lopped off the
yeah.
back half of her first year of school, and then like the front half of her first year of school, first
Yeah.
grade. So
No, that makes sense.
yeah, that was a bummer. But yeah, I had no show and tell, no career day either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What'd they bring?
A historic incendiary explosive device.
Oh, they brought a bomb.
From the description of it, sounds like might have been like British thermite.
I don't know what that means.
Thermite basically burns like hotter than the sun.
Oh,
it's white.
cool.
I believe thermite's white phosphorus, if I'm not mistaken.
Why in the world would you take that to show and tell?
Because
I'm gonna blow this school up.
It's metal oxide. So yeah, it's it gets dumb hot. Like it's the way like if the simplest way to explain this is like if you're talking about like special operators, if you're in the Middle East and you're conducting operations and in those
Your microphone's
my
breaking.
mic is completely jacked.
They don't want you to talk about
There
this.
we go. But if you're conducting operations and you find a vehicle that looks like it's made up like a IED, like a suicide bomber vehicle, thermite is what you throw in the car to basically burn it at a billion degrees and completely destroy everything. It'll catch metal on fire.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something that should be around a house, let alone in the reach of a child.
No, and it sounds like you see what was it? Not Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz.
I've never seen Hot Fuzz.
Oh, okay. Well, they go out to this old British guy's house and they find some guns, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got all of this stuff," and he kicks open the door. Inside there's like an entire armory of World War II weapons. And they're like, "Where did you get this?" Like, "Oh, it was over here." And then like around the corner is like an underwater mine. Like, as dumb as that whole scene sounds, like there's stuff that's just left over from warfare.
Yeah,
particularly in Europe.
You don't pack it up and bring it home with you.
Yeah, well, a lot of people did. Like, yeah. Here's a dirty little secret. Like when we were like going into Afghanistan or in Iraq in the war there, I know a lot of people that sent home AK-47s in pieces.
Oh, okay.
And just
that doesn't seem like that you should be doing that.
No,
seems against the rules.
It is,
All
but
right.
yeah, you would be amazed what goes through the U.S. mail system.
I don't think I would be. Oh man!
But they completely evacuated the school, and they sent out a press release like, "Hey, everything's fine." The kid apparently wasn't like trying to do anything malicious. They thought it was like And they aren't clear whether it was an inert explosive.
They just know that it
was at one point in time an explosive device. So
I have a feeling that teacher was like, yeah, we saw something like this coming. Your kid's like, yeah, all right.
It's a little girl.
It's a little girl.
Upset of the year.
Wow.
Upset of the year.
All right. Was she like super smart? I was like, this could blow the whole school up. Like, whoa, okay.
Again, it was like a show and tell thing. Like, oh, hey, here's something cool, like a piece of history. Like, what do you think would happen here?
Was it Ron Swanson's kid?
Yeah.
Remember he gave a landmine to a kid that came for career day to the Parks and Rec office?
if I went into, or if I sent my kid, my hypothetical kid, to a class with an inert hand grenade, like the pins pulled out, it's hollowed out. Like, do you think that it would cause a kerfuffle? Because I think it would.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Even though it's completely disarmed, there's nothing about it other than it's a heavy piece of metal.
Yeah, it's a heavy piece of metal. Yeah.
But people would freak out about it.
They absolutely would. Because you're bringing a hand grenade to school.
I mean, have you ever seen like the little hand grenade you can get for your desk?
Oh yeah, the paperweight hand grenade things. I've seen the hand grenade lighters too.
Yeah, but like it's literally like a M82 grenade that's just been drilled out.
Yeah.
Like if I sent that to school with my kid.
No, it's not okay.
Right?
Yeah, not okay.
And again,
not all right to do.
I don't think it's terribly different than bringing mom's toy without the batteries.
Things are certainly getting destroyed.
All right.
No, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll let Jeff end on that one. All right. That's our worst day on the web.
Why couldn't the mic cut out right then?
All right, no, right? Coming up next, I want to talk a little something that's been on a lot of Blazers fans' minds. Are the Blazers better off without Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton? And why 3-game samples aren't always the best indicators. Danny and Dusty, Tinny the Fan. Trailblazers have won 3 games in a row, and there's a lot of people who are saying the Blazers are better off without Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton. I don't know if they are or if they aren't. All I know is that there's been 3 games. And in those 3 games, you've seen Shaedon Sharpe have his 2 best games of his career, and you've seen Donovan Clingan have the best game of his career, and you saw the Minnesota Timberwolves have one of the worst shooting nights they've ever had. I don't think you can draw any kind of actual conclusions out of that because there's still 79 other games that you need to go through.
What we are seeing is a team that is exponentially better on the defensive end of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And would that translate with those guys out there too, with the way that everybody is kind of playing in unison right now? I don't know. And I think that we all know the limitations that Anthony Simons has to his game on that end of the floor.
I'll tell
They've
you right
been
now,
well documented.
Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe aren't any further along.
No, and that's where it is that it's not like Shaedon is a guy who is a lockdown defender. And Scoot looks lost.
Well, on ball, it's okay.
I'm talking as a full player, not on the defensive end.
Well, on
of
the
the floor.
defensive end, specifically, when he's off ball, he might. God, I hate saying this. He might be the worst in the league. It's he watches like a fan sometimes, and it's like, brother, you can't.
That was the biggest criticism of Damian Lillard his first few years in the NBA was when he was not guarding the ball, he would be watching what the play was doing. And
when
guys
you put
would
him
be
in front of
everywhere
him,
else.
you know, there's stuff there because he has physical tools, but off ball, it's horrendous. But I think what you've seen is the combination of Shaedon and Donovan having some monster games.
Tumani Kamara
Two
playing
is
out of his
consistently
gourd
that's-
defensively.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be there regardless of who's on the floor. But I've seen a lot of people say, well, the ball's moving around better. It's like Shaedon Sharpe's not isolating. I'm like, Shaedon Sharpe hasn't scored outside of isolating. He can't run pick and rolls consistently.
But when he is not on the floor, and that may be part of it. Like when he and Anthony are on the floor together, the ball will stop a heck of a lot more than it's stopping right now because 2 of those guys will end that possession.
And here's the other side.
Not like they've been great offensively in this.
No, they haven't.
3-game run either.
That's the thing is they haven't been that great. The other side of this is what happens when Shaedon Sharpe doesn't have a 30-point game if Anthony Simons isn't there to give you the boost, which you haven't seen yet. Because Donovan Clingan, as great as he was on Wednesday night, got played off the floor just the other day.
Yeah, on Sunday.
And if you didn't have Robert Williams III to cover that up, who had a tremendous game, it doesn't matter. And the same thing is true of Scoot Henderson.
Would DeAndre Ayton cover that up? Because I think that
yes and no.
A lot of the similar limitations, obviously DeAndre Ayton with his experience in the NBA and ability to have seen this before can adapt a lot better than Donovan Clingan, but stylistically, Robert Williams III was a guy who fit defending what Atlanta was trying to do far better.
He has the small ball ability to kind of come out and blitz. He's a better rim protector. Like, look, if you told me that Robert Williams III, like if he was as healthy as DA is consistently, as available as DA is consistently, he'd be a better player.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wrote about Rob a couple days ago. He's a basketball savant. Like, is Rob a rocket scientist? No. But he understands spatially. Just it's something you're either born with, you either have it or you don't. There's no like you can get better at it, but to be at his level, he is. Look, he's not Jokic as on offense, like on defense, but he's pretty damn close.
It's the same thing that makes great rebounders and great passers.
It's an intrinsic. Like Dennis Rodman isn't the biggest, strongest, fastest guy. It's like he said in the doc. It's the boom 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 boom. Doing all the hand movements and everything. His brain. Kevin Love is 6'8.5", 6'9", is one of the best rebounders of his generation.
Yep.
Like you have innate feel for that. And Robert Williams III has innate feel on both sides of the floor, but on defense especially. On offense, it's about allowing space to create. And when he dives hard. And I think the biggest, if you're going to point out a tangible thing that is different right now, Donovan and Rob both roll hard. And what that does for them offensively does open stuff up. And if DA was trying to do that, he just still wasn't doing it enough. And they were trying to shoehorn things into that. Now, when those guys come back, I don't know how different that's going to look or what's going to be look different or how it's going to look different. But I'm interested to see what it looks like offensively. Like that's the thing is like, because if Ant reverts back to what he was, which has been one of the best kind of high volume shooters in the league, and you've got Shaedon, then the offense can take off. And the defense that you're going to probably give up with both of them on the floor can be compensated for a little bit at least. But we won't know because it's been 3 games.
Yeah. I just wonder about, in the guy who's given really good minutes and has been a guy who's earned minutes is Delano Banton too, rotationally.
Yes. And the question with him is going to be interesting. Is this Linsanity 2.0 or is this who he is?
I think it is maybe more of the flash in the pan.
I don't mean that rudely to him. Like I hope it's something that's like he has truly figured out.
And I do too. I mean, obviously you hope that,
Yeah.
and I think there's going to be a lot of Blazer fans that would not give the staff or Chauncey Billups any credit for, I don't know, taking a guy who was not seen as a guy who could play in the NBA and actually
empowering him. That's what this
earning a role.
That's what the staff does.
One thing that he has that on the defensive end of the floor where nobody's going to be giving him any votes for all defensive NBA.
No.
But 6'8" makes a hell of a lot.
It
of
covers
difference.
up for a lot of things, and he's been very opportunistic with deflections and steals. I think he's leading the team in steals.
And that right there is that Anthony Simons.
No, and Ant will be the first one to tell you that he struggles defensively, but even more than that he's not a steals guy.
Yeah.
He's thought about like, what if I was that guy?
And so I see where people are saying, hey, well, you're going to be better without him. Offensively, you still need to score points to win. And they've been winning these games by scoring, 110 against Atlanta, right? Not bad. 90 or 106 or 114 against Atlanta, 106 against the Timberwolves, and then the 122 against the Timberwolves where they shot out of their gourd in that one.
You want to know something that's disgusting about Banton?
Hmm.
Among wings, he is in the 100th percentile in block percentage at 2.3. Okay. For reference, Toumani Camara is at 0.5% and in the 26th percentile. They're both classified as wings, okay? In steal percentage, Delano Banton is in the 99th percentile in the entire league for wings at 3.5%.
I think that right there is you're getting a lot on the offensive end, and that's going to be huge, but Delano Banton's minutes go deuces. Or Scoot's minutes go.
Or you end up doing, Delano Banton at the 3 kind of thing, which kind of defeats some of the purpose, right?
Yep.
Because if he's not on ball, he doesn't have necessarily the same value. His ability to get downhill is nerfed a little bit because the shooting is the thing that just kind of is the wild card, right? Like right now, he's shooting the living hell out of the ball from 3.
And it's just, he's green light. Just go.
Like, let me pull it up right now. Banton is currently their best 3-point shooter at 44% at 12 of 27 on the season. Their 2 best 3-point shooters currently, hell, they're 3 best 3-point shooters. There's no way you would get this. It's Banton, Toumani, and Chris Murray.
I think it says a lot about where this team is at offensively. 29th in the NBA.
So, and again, it's been 3 games.
Yep.
See where it goes. I believe Ant is going on the trip. I think DA is going on the trip. I don't have any reason to think he's not, but I don't know if DA is going to play. I think Ant, coming off the illness, I think they're going to ramp him up and see how he does. But I don't know. Throwing him to the Wolves against OKC seems like maybe a bad idea.
Ant or Ayton?
No, like both of them. Like
both of them.
Hey, come on back. Here you go.
Well, when you get paid like those guys get paid, though, right?
Oh yeah.
There shouldn't be wolves you're throwing them to. You if you're available, you should play.
No, I mean like it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
that's.
I was like, no, you do it.
No. It's like because now this OKC team's playing small.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of a buzzsaw because they're playing Alex Caruso and Lou Dort at the center, and you don't really know what the hell to do with that.
Well, Delano Banton's what you do with it.
Yeah, figure it out. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I haven't formed any opinions on it either way because it's 3 games.
Yeah.
And you've had some wild splits from multiple guys. So see what this looks like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 15 games. And then we can kind of make some judgments going from there. All right, coming up next, it's Tuesday afternoon. It's 3 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock, which means it's time for 3 up, 3 down, 3 things we like, 3 things we didn't. Coming out of the NFL weekend that was here on Danny and Dusty, 10 the Fan.
This is Danny and Dusty.
It's not your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
Go ahead. Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
I'm your huckleberry.
The Fan.
Hour number 3 here on a Tuesday afternoon, whether you're listening on 10 a.m. My mic not liking me one bit. Watching along on youtube.com/1080am the fan or twitch.tv/1080am the fan. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for hanging out with us on this wonderful, wonderful Tuesday afternoon. It is Tuesday afternoon. It is a little after 2 o'clock, which means time for 3 Up, 3 Down. 3 things we liked, 3 things we didn't. Coming out of the NFL weekend that was. Senor Dusty, what did you like coming out of this weekend?
Lions mauling the Jaguars. That's my first up. Jared Goff, after 5 interceptions the week before and still getting a win over the Houston Texans, he rebounded with a perfect passer rating. Perfection from Jared Goff. Also threw for 400 yards. It's his 5th perfect passer rating. I think it's the second game he's had with the perfect passer rating, but it's the 5th time this year he's had a completion percentage of over 80% on the week. 5 times this year. Jared Goff had a stinker, and I jinxed the hell out of him by we need to put more respect on his name. He was flawless in that route against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and everybody could say, oh, but it's the Jags. And I don't care who it is, because if it was just the Jags, everybody would do it against the Jaguars every week. It is really damn hard to do what they are doing and what he did in that game.
Did you feel like that they were trying to maybe get Jared Goff an MVP there?
In that game? I don't know. No.
It felt like they were trying to jack up the stats a little bit.
No, because of the fact he had 5 interceptions the week before. That'll do you in.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Felt like they were trying to hey.
I think a 5 interception game.
We're going to reduce that.
A 5 interception game can take you out of that race.
Pretty quick.
Way more than beating the blood out of the Jaguars does.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
My first up, the Steelers are for real. No, seriously. The Steelers are for real. And they are. Like we thought, they'd be a cute little fun, plucky team, Are they really going to be there in the end? Well, then they put the clamps on Lamar Jackson and said, we're better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wanted to sit there and say that the Ravens were a team you could see going to the AFC Championship game. If you can see the Ravens going, you should be able to see the Steelers going, because as good as the Ravens are offensively, that Steelers team, they're better built for the playoffs. Run the ball, play defense.
They don't have a quarterback that can win them a game, though.
Well, the Ravens got a quarterback that can win them a game, and he got put in handcuffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing, is this Steelers defense might actually be that thing we've kind of talked about, is can you be successful in the NFL today? Can your defense be good enough?
Yes, but to win in the playoffs, you need that quarterback.
I don't disagree, but I think the Steelers might be the test case for this.
If I were to put them in front of Buffalo or Kansas City in a playoff game,
I would not.
I'm not going with. And that's what it's going to take to get to a conference championship game.
If I told you they upset either one of them, though, would you be entirely shocked?
No, but I would be surprised.
Sure. But I mean, I think that's the test case for them this year.
I mean, a lot of things can break every which way in a football game and in the NFL.
And I think they might be a team that can cause things to break.
Not with Russell Wilson.
No, I mean, on the defense.
I know, but
on the defensive side of the
not
ball.
with
No, not offensively. No.
The Van Ginkel Vikings are my number 2.
You love saying Van Ginkel.
2 sacks against the Titans. He now has 8 sacks on the year and 2 pick sixes.
Ooh.
There's only 2 other players in NFL history that have had 8 sacks and 2 pick sixes in a season.
That's pretty good.
Terrell Suggs and Jason Taylor. And now Andrew Van Ginkel, everybody.
When you talk about Suggs and Taylor, are those maybe 2 of the most slept-on physical freaks in the history of this game?
Uh-huh. Yeah, because they played in an era where they were absolute monsters. But Jason Taylor's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Suggs will be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are going to get their shine. But Suggs was never even the best player on his own defense.
Was Taylor?
Yeah, I think he was better than Zach Thomas.
Okay. Again, but I think that's kind of underscore. But they played in the linebacker era.
Suggs was the 3rd best player on his defense.
Big time Ray and Ed.
Ed Reed, Ray Lewis. both pretty good.
Was Rod playing then too?
I think Rod
he's
Woodson
gone.
was out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's third. Well, Haloti was on that team, so he might have been fourth.
Yeah.
God, what an embarrassment of riches. All right, my second up. Correcting mistakes and admitting faults. Thank you, Indianapolis Colts, for saying no to Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
and going with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Beyond winning the game, no duh.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. You were chasing Cowboys level rhetoric of like, well, he gives us a better chance. When?
Yeah.
Where? How?
Mm-mm.
Stop.
He doesn't.
Thank you. Thank you for look. This is what I'm talking about with front offices and ownership admitting faults and going, hey, maybe we got this all wrong. And
Well, they were publicly shamed into it, I think.
Again, whatever the cause.
Because they named Flacco the starter, and then we're like, oh, crap. All right, I guess you were right.
Whatever the cause.
Yeah.
Doing that self-reflection and doing that evaluation and coming to the correct conclusion.
No doubt about it.
You love to see it.
We are just exiting Week 11 in the NFL. Entering Week 12. There are 6 dominant teams in the National Football League right now. There are 6 teams with a 97% or better chance of making the playoffs right now. They are the Lions, which have a 99% chance of making the playoffs. The Philadelphia Eagles have a 97% chance of making the playoffs. And then in the AFC, you've got 4. The NFC's only got 2, but it's the Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, and Texans, all with 97% chance or higher.
Oh.
You know what is the next one out? The Chargers have a 91% chance of making the playoffs.
It has to be based on the remaining schedule.
It is based on your remaining schedule. If they win this week, a win this week will bump them up to a 97% chance of making the playoffs. The Chargers this week have got.
I'm guessing it's somebody they're going up against in there.
The Ravens.
Yeah, there you go.
They've got the Ravens.
Yeah,
because they beat the Ravens.
You would knock them down
on Monday
spot.
night. They've got a 97% chance of making the playoffs.
That'd be back-to-back AFC losses with a divisional loss to the Ravens.
Nelly.
It's a bit of a double whammy.
6 dominant teams, and that 7th one that's lurking on the outside, a win this week. The Chargers could enter that
Jim
conversation.
Harbaugh.
Best coach, man. Best coach in football.
Unbleeping believable. My last up, Eagles find their groove. And this has a lot more to do with who cares how badly they beat the Cowboys last week or even them beating a division rival in the Washington Commanders. It's coming out of that hellscape that was whatever coming out of camp with Sirianni, with Jalen Hurts, with all of the BS around that franchise.
Yep.
That all seems to have been minimized. You don't look. Does Jalen Hurts look great?
Yeah.
No.
I think it's going to rear its ugly head at some point, though, you know?
I do too, but they've somehow found a way
Yeah.
to just kind of get it done.
Just finding any way.
8-2's 8-2, man.
It is talent. Talent winning out. Winning out.
We've seen talent in Cincinnati not win out.
Yep. Well, hey, that's a good transition because that's my first down. The Cincinnati Bengals and their struggles. It's not just that you lose games in the NFL. It is that you have quite possibly the top passer in the NFL, the leading receiver in the NFL, the leader in sacks in the NFL, and you are in a pit of abyss if you are the Cincinnati Bengals because your defense has let you down, your kicker has let you down, you are finding new and creative ways to lose games and grasp defeat out of the jaws of victory. Again, another one-possession loss. They one-possession loss against the Chargers, the Ravens, twice against the Ravens, the Commanders, the Chiefs, and the Patriots. They have 6 one-possession losses. They've lost 7 games this year. That is a pit of misery that nobody wants to be in. Congratulations, Cincinnati Bengals.
Speaking of pits of misery, where do the San Francisco 49ers go from here?
Ooh.
They are now 5-5. They are at the bottom of the NFC West.
1 game out of first.
That's the saving grace. But they're 1-3 in the division.
Yeah.
And here's their remaining schedule. At the Packers, at the Bills, Bears, Rams, at the Dolphins, Lions, finish at the Cardinals. How many games are they winning in that?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but you know what? If they win this week, you know what their playoff probability is?
Probably skyrockets.
50%.
Yeah.
If they lose, 18.
Because the
This week
because the
alone.
Packers are one of those teams
Yeah.
because they're not going to win their division.
Yep.
They're going to be a wild card team.
Yep.
And that's what I mean. If you're the 49ers right now, this might break you.
Yeah.
If
no
you
doubt.
lose this week, this might be the end of your season, which, that chart that I talked about yesterday of coaches that in one-score games,
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan was towards the very bottom of that list.
Yeah. And a lot of those have been Super Bowls, dude. My second down, kickers. Remember how great kickers were at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, somebody gave them all ketamine.
Yeah, Chris Boswell had a hell of a week this week. He went 6 for 6. Big ups to him, Pittsburgh's kicker, because, I don't know, their offense couldn't score a touchdown against one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
Shout out being an outlier.
But outside of that, Brandon Aubrey of Dallas, 1 of 2. Evan McPherson,
Oh, no.
2 of 4. Jake Elliott in Philly, 2 of 4. Justin Tucker, his demise is gone down so quickly. Automatic from 50 and in. He went 1 for 3, and he's missing PATs now. Josh Carty in LA, 0 for 1. Dustin Hopkins in Cleveland, 0 for 2 this week. It was a rough week for kickers after they were like the most impressive position group in the NFL the first 6 weeks of the season.
Are you buying into the conspiracy?
What's that?
The manipulated K-balls?
No. What? I haven't even heard this.
Oh, you haven't seen this one?
We have K-ball drama?
Oh, yeah.
All
There's some conspiracy theories that the NFL didn't like the juiced-up scores,
Oh,
and the K-balls...
Come on.
Hey, remember in Major League Baseball...
Juiced up scores? Scoring was a problem early in the year.
No, I should say the juiced-up kicking numbers. Because remember, the first 6 weeks of the season, everybody was hitting everything.
Roger Goodell's like, we need to hate kickers again.
Look, I'm just saying, it adds to the drama of the game. Look, remember, we brought on the guys that did the data on the baseball stuff last year. And kind of Bradford Davis and Meredith Willis. We talked to them last year about the juiced up balls in baseball and how weird that has been.
Now that we have that theory going around?
I think...
I don't know why they would want to hate kickers again. I thought it wasn't bad for the game.
Well, I mean, it seems like hating kickers is a lot better than hating the players that continually get arrested.
I get, yeah, you know
Look
what?
over
You're not
here.
wrong. You're not wrong. We can hate kickers again.
Kickers don't matter.
Yeah, that may be a theory that I may subscribe to with
just saying.
Roger Goodell. All right, my third down. This one's going to be an easy one. Did you see after the Chargers win the love that was going around for J.K. Dobbins?
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of love for him. He should be comeback player of the year. 2016, broken fibula. 2021, torn ACL. 2021, torn LCL. Torn meniscus in 2021. Torn hamstring in 2021. Torn Achilles in 2023. And right now, he is having an incredible year. 726 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's playing really well. And he's 25 years old. He's still really young, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying comeback player of the year. My down is that, no, it's going to go to some stupid quarterback who plays good for 5 weeks. Joe Flacco, everybody. DeMar Hamlin died, and Joe Flacco won comeback player of the year.
What about Ricky Pearsall?
He got shot.
He got shot.
He got shot.
Got shot.
Yeah.
He's got to be on the short list.
Yes.
Just
and this
saying.
is why I'm saying my down is that J.K. Dobbins is going to get this ripped from him. It's because some old quarterback plays pretty okay
over the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, and then he'll lose.
Cooper Rush.
No, after what we saw last night, it definitely won't be Cooper Rush.
What if he just leads them Cowboys? gets them to 9-8.
Yeah, this should be Ricky Pearsall or JK. Or JK. I mean, if Ricky Pearsall becomes like a leading receiver for a team that is like they have a 31% chance of winning, make the playoffs right now, and they go and make the playoffs. Yeah, go ahead, Ricky Pearsall. He got shot.
I mean, not only did he get shot, we saw him walking to the ambulance leaking like a sieve.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
If you're putting a visual in front of the judges, that's going to win out over all of J.K. Dobbins' MRIs.
Yeah, his just body falling apart.
Look, I sympathize with him.
Yeah.
My last down, it's going to be a repeat of last week. No. Now the Cowboys have hit rock bottom. Last week was about Now the Cowboys have hit rock bottom.
Well, yeah, because the roof is falling apart. They're kingdoming that son of a gun.
Our pets' heads are falling off. That's where we've reached with the Cowboys.
Yeah. Oh, poor Jerry Jones. Feel bad for him.
I don't.
I don't at all.
don't know.
Who feels bad for Jerry Jones?
You shouldn't.
His interview on the fan down in Dallas is going to be something.
Mwah! All right, that's it.
It'll get you fired.
3 up, 3 down, 3 things we like, 3 things we didn't. Coming out of the NFL weekend that was. Coming up next, no, seriously, the Oregon Ducks have clinched a spot in the Big Ten Championship game. We'll get to that and more. Why it's a little bit weird around this on Danny and Dusty today, the Fan. Hey, is that better? Look at that. Got a little good microphone. Had to do a quick hot swap during the break, and now we're good to go. Speaking of hot swaps, the Oregon Ducks, they were, they weren't, they are. They're now confirmed to be in the Big Ten championship game no matter what, because no matter what the scenario is, they will either be the 1 or the 2 seed in the Big Ten, no matter what.
Yeah, the tiebreaker scenarios in the Big Ten are convoluted, and it's a mess because of the fact you don't have divisions anymore and you have 18-team conferences, right? So the Big Ten, apparently over the last 2 days, we're crunching the numbers on what all of the scenarios would look like for who could play in the Big Ten championship game. With now 2 games remaining in the regular season for most teams, 1 game for Oregon, they have been able to go through, there's 10 scenarios that could play out between Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, and Penn State to see who plays in the conference championship game. And because Oregon won at Wisconsin, as we all thought, but there wasn't a concrete, definitive answer from the conference, no matter what happens with the Washington game, Oregon will play in the Big Ten championship.
Yes, there is no machination in which Oregon will not be 1 or 2.
Yeah, and it all depends on if Oregon, obviously, if they win against Washington after the bye week, they will be the 1 seed. No ands, ifs, or buts about it.
Where it gets dicey is the Indiana-Ohio State game.
Yeah, and if Indiana wins that game, Oregon, in all likelihood right now, would still be the 1 seed because then it goes to your conference opponent's record. Okay? And Oregon, as it stands right now, would have an advantage in that.
Yeah.
But the scenarios would be if Indiana, Oregon wins out, obviously we know it would be Oregon and Indiana, right? And that would mean Penn State would finish 3rd in the conference. Ohio State would finish 4th because Indiana would hand Ohio State their 2nd conference loss.
Otherwise known as Ryan Day gets fired.
Ryan Day would get fired.
On that note, if Indiana beats Ohio State this weekend, does Ryan Day get fired on the spot? Does he make it until Monday?
No, they wouldn't fire him. They're not going to fire him.
You don't think so?
No. If they lose to Indiana and Michigan, yeah, he gets fired. If they lose to Indiana, he beats Michigan, and they make the playoff and they win a playoff game, he's not getting fired.
You don't think so?
No.
Oof.
Nope. This is where it starts to get interesting, though. Okay? What if Ohio State beats Indiana and then loses to Michigan? It then comes down to Indiana and Penn State. Okay? If Oregon wins and
that's the most hilarious possible outcome.
So Oregon would earn the outright berth if they beat Washington, and they would be the 1 seed. The 2 seed would be determined by the highest cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents at the end of the season for Indiana and Penn State, because Ohio State would be out with 2 conference losses, right? But they would have, but Ohio State would have wins over Indiana and Penn State and still be at home because their 2 losses would be to Michigan and Oregon. Okay. I think one of the more interesting scenarios that could play out here is, say Oregon wins and then you have 3 1-loss teams, which is probably the most likely scenario, right? Oregon and Ohio State would play because Ohio State would have 2 wins over Indiana and Penn State head-to-head. But where it gets a little bit dicey is there is a scenario where was I? I think it was out of these 10. It's crazy. The Indiana, Oregon, Penn State all finish 8-1. Ohio State loses to Indiana. Indiana and Oregon would win berths due to common opponent ranked highest in the standings,
which would be Ohio State.
Penn State would be at home because they lost.
It's all so dumb.
Yeah, I don't know how this. I have no idea. It's all shenanigans right now. But there's only one scenario in which Penn State goes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It would be scenario 10 here. Oregon finishes 9-0 and 8 or 8-1.
10.
Yeah. Penn State finishes 8-1. And that's if Indiana loses to Ohio State and Purdue, and Ohio State loses to Michigan. Oregon and Penn State would be the two teams in the Big Ten Championship. Only one includes Penn State. Ohio State is in four of them. And then you have Purdue in the other four, or Indiana in the other four. So it's Indiana or Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's what we're coming down to. And really, it comes down to this game. This game this week, Indiana, Ohio State, it comes down to this game. The winner of this game will be playing in the Big Ten Championship
Unless
game.
Ohio State wins and loses to Michigan, which won't happen. But
I mean, it's at Ohio State this year. Michigan is inept offensively. You can't beat a team of Ohio State's caliber with one hand tied behind your back. That's the same thing as Oregon. Oregon did not play their A game. They still won.
I would like to see it.
I would love to see it. I'm an agent of chaos. These are the things I want. These are the things I love. But Oregon is in no matter what happens. And that goes back to what we talked about hour number 1 with Tez Johnson. He's back. I don't know how back he'll be because of the fact you will be in Indianapolis no matter what. No, because I think there's a really high chance that you could see it for a third time. Like, I'd love the rematch to be in a college football playoff, not in a Big Ten championship game. Like, I like seeing – I would love to see two undefeateds, Oregon and Indiana, playing for a bye. The other one will likely be the 5 seed in the college football playoff, and how crazy that could get as well. And, oh, by the way – then you would have, if Indiana beats Ohio State, you'd have an Ohio State team that's a 2-loss team, and their 2 losses would be to it would be 1 and 2 in the country.
Yeah, because if Indiana wins that game, they're going to 2 or 3.
And where do you put them in the 12-team playoff? Because you're not going to put them at 5, because whoever loses the Big Ten championship game is going to be the 5 seed.
Put them at 10.
You're not going to be at 6. Because
put them at 10.
The loser of the SEC title game will probably be at 6. So they're going to be like a 7 or 8 seed because you got to give them a home field because they're 2 losses. If they lose to Indiana tight, like a 1-possession game or a field goal, right? If they lose by a field goal to Indiana, they would lose to number 1 and number 2 by a combined 4 points.
Games in Indiana?
Nope. It's at Ohio State.
SSU?
Yep. It's at Ohio State.
You lose at home, though.
Yeah.
You lose at home, though. And, it's looked at differently.
What if the loss at home, Will Howard gets dinged up, and it's not like a long-term injury? Like he sprains his ankle. And he would be totally fine, totally okay.
We're basically talking like Bo Nix, Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. He sprains his ankle. You're like, he's going to be fine by the time we get to the college football playoff. Like it's a nothing burger. He'll be okay.
But that was basically the reason they couldn't come.
That's the reason why they couldn't do it. I love this.
Yeah, I know, this is fun. Like, again, this is why we wanted the 12-team playoff for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of all of the different doors and moments that it opens up, right?
Yep. The sliding doors that could be, and then watching the SEC meltdown over the worthiness of Ohio State versus
or Indiana
versus any of the other teams, and being like, no, we should host. The Big Ten doesn't deserve, like that would be amazing.
Well, let's get to that. Let's get to some of the sliding doors moments. We've got Mike Elko, we've got Kenny Dillingham, and we've got Tommy Tuberville.
Oh gosh,
all over the place talking college football playoff, and what matters and what doesn't. That and more. But first, here's the Big Kahuna with a Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, after a comprehensive evaluation of all possible scenarios over the final 2 weeks of the season, the Big Ten announced Oregon has indeed officially clinched a spot in the conference championship game, saying there are no conditions under which the Ducks will not finish either number 1 or number 2. In the NFL, 7 weeks after firing head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas. The Jets were 30-64 under Douglas, with neither a winning season nor a playoff appearance. Former Browns general manager Phil Savage has been named interim GM. The Trailblazers are off for another day before starting their 5-game road trip in Oklahoma City tomorrow night against the Thunder. The trip also includes stops in Houston, Memphis, and Indianapolis. Portland 6-8 on the season, winners of 3 in a row, tied for the 10th worst record in the league. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
All right, we're going to go with a little dealer's choice here. You want to go with some Elko, you want to go with some Dilly, or you want to go with some Tuberville?
We can wait for Dilly to the end.
Okay.
We'll play Dilly at the end because Kenny Dillingham's becoming a favorite of mine.
He's quite high up there. You know what? Let's go with some Tommy Tuberville.
All right.
Because we were just talking about Indiana. And Tommy Tuberville has made the transition, the very normal transition from college athletics to the Capitol Hill.
Yeah, to the Senate.
Which, you know,
as a senator in Alabama.
That's kind of a thing that you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's saying that they need to put a stranglehold around NIL to keep what's happening in Indiana from happening.
Yeah, this is on one hand, I'm like, yeah, we do need standardization to the name, image, and likeness, because when it is state to state and it is so wildly different from one place to the other, it causes chaos, right? And I think if you had a standardized format for NIL that every school in the country had to adhere to and it applied to everybody, it would be different. I mean, the rules that the NCAA has put in place is like, we don't really know what to do with it. I think what Tommy Tuberville is doing, though, he is basically being the SEC mouthpiece in all of this because...
Where'd he coach?
Auburn and Cincinnati and Texas Tech, right? But he is a senator in the state of Alabama, right? He said it takes a different mentality coaching because you don't just build a team, you pretty much buy a team now. And that was a little bit forbidden when I was coaching. No, it wasn't. But now it's legal. Look at Indiana. They went out and they bought them a football team, and look where they're at. 10-0, ranked 5th in the country. Does he even know what Indiana has done and how they built this team?
Yeah, they did buy a team in the sense of they bought them from James Madison and Ohio University, as opposed to, I don't know, Alabama buying them directly out of the recruiting services, like
under table with no taxes being paid on any of the money.
Yeah.
And look, 14 of the 31 players that they brought in from the transfer portal at Indiana were 0 to 2-star recruits. This isn't
mercenary hunting.
No, 25 of their 31 players were from the group of 5 or lower. What Indiana's doing is not like the poster child for NIL being wrong.
No,
in
this
college
is
football.
Boise State on steroids. Let's take all the chip on their shoulder guys that fit a style and a type that we think we can do something with, but also we've got Mark Cuban money.
Yeah,
like that. For those that don't know, Indiana's
that's where he
Mark
went.
Cuban alum.
Yep.
So.
I think this is so dumb because he didn't bring up any of the SEC schools. He didn't bring up Ohio State or Oregon, which are, two of the rumored to be. And that's the other thing, too, is that we have no idea what these schools are spending on NIL. Like, we have an idea, but you still don't know exactly what schools are paying. And there's a lot of schools that went to the NIL route, and they haven't had the success Florida. But I do agree, though, that there should be some sort of leveling of NIL and everybody playing by the same rules under NIL.
Which
I
do
agree
seem
with that.
like we're heading towards a sort of quasi-salary cap with the new court ruling.
Well, yeah, there was, and also the Ross Dellinger article that he put out, I think it was last week, where he just basically laid it out that there are some schools, because we did have the early signing period for all the other sports except for football. This was what Dellinger said. This week, schools are distributing to recruits NIL contracts with guaranteed salaries and even buyouts. That's where we're going. The House settlement ruling that is going to be finalized in April is basically laying the groundwork for this is going to be something that it starts within the university. They can negotiate those contracts. At that point, I think what college sports needs to do is wait until the roof falls off of the NCAA and the power conferences or the group of 4 or power 4 and group of 5 say, we're not going to play by the same set of rules. We are different than everybody else.
Yep.
And then at that point you go, all right, since you guys have separated yourself from the NCAA, now we have the standardization. Right now, it does nothing except for muddy the water. Yeah. No, it muddies the waters if you put a federal legislation in front of it, because that's what we want, is we want the government on top of this. No, now that the NCAA is truly at a crossroads and at a portion, this is where it's been different before. Like, if the NCAA was operating as normal and with the power that they once had, then yeah, you should say, yeah, let's have federal legislation for it. The NCAA is falling apart. Like, we see it crumbling in front of us. Just wait. Pump the brakes on this. Instead, Tommy Tuberville's doing the SEC's work as his mouthpiece.
The woe is me part of this from constituents back home.
I mean, come on.
This sounds like a job for the Doge.
Oh, yeah.
The Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Because government and efficiency go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to keep it in the old SEC? You want to do some Mike Elko?
Dude, Mike Elko, he stepped in it today. They've got Auburn this week. Then they got
Which,
Texas.
if you're not familiar, they suck.
Winner of Texas and Texas A&M goes to the SEC title game. But if Texas A&M loses, then all of a sudden that game, it is truly a cluster you-know-what in the SEC. A&M controls their own destiny to the SEC title game, and he was asked about it today.
I don't think it's an issue. I think when you're in the situation we're in, it's easy to focus on the task at hand. I think, those big games earlier in the year, maybe you look ahead. If we didn't have at stake what's at stake, maybe you would worry about it. I think our focus is single-handedly on on Auburn right now and locked in on what we got to get done.
No, we're not overlooking Auburn. No. We got to take this one day at a time. There's huge ramifications. Our sights are solely set on Texas. I mean Auburn.
Oops.
I wish everybody would have seen his face because it felt like the mic cut out and I was like, "Oh, clip's over." And he was just paused and then he looked around like, "Oh no. I just did that."
And he probably didn't mean to.
Auburn.
It was
Auburn by a tutty.
It was a slip.
Auburn by a tutty.
But if you don't think that thing's getting replayed in the locker room like a freaking remix, you're out of your mind.
How great is that?
Auburn just
I feel for Mike Elko.
Thank you.
I love
Thank
Mike
you for
Elko too.
this.
He's in right now Texas A&M. Anybody want to guess the line? Texas A&M Auburn on the road at Jordan Hare.
What's Auburn's record right now?
They are 4-6, 1-5 in SEC play.
10.5.
A&M 10.5, huh? BT Dubs, the one game in conference play they have won is Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M 2.5 point favorites.
That's it, huh? What did it open at?
Oh, I don't know about that.
But if it's 2.5 now, there's no way it could have been bet down that much. 4.5, 5.5, 4.5, 5.5.
I mean, it's you're not gonna see 8 points.
No, I would have thought that would have been a bigger line, to be honest.
Let's see.
I'm usually pretty close on those. I'm surprised in that.
Yeah, 10.5 that is quite far off from 2.5. Yeah, I don't see where the opening line is. I'll have to go find that.
We'll find that one on break.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. All right, we'll wrap up today's show with the blissfully unaware Kenny Dillingham, and I mean that in the most like positive manner as one can. So we'll get to that here to close up today's show. I'm Danny Dusty, Danny the Fan.
It's time for a Blazers report on the Fan. The inside story on the Portland Trailblazers. Brought to you by Aztec Willie's Taqueria.
The Portland Trailblazers are getting ready to hit the road tomorrow afternoon, where they will take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Trailblazers are fresh off or continuing on a 3-game winning streak. Unclear if Anthony Simons and or DeAndre Ayton will be ready to go. Matisse Thybulle still on the injury report. There hasn't been a given update on him. I talked to Matisse, Sunday. He's moving around. He's getting through some stuff, but he's still dealing with some swelling due to some treatment that he's taken on that knee. So I don't know if he'll make it back on this trip, but wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden he started eking his way towards that way. Donovan Clingan will continue starting in the place of DeAndre Ayton as it sits right now. Robert Williams III still limited on back-to-backs, of which the Portland Trailblazers will have against the Houston Rockets, where the front game of that stretch will be the Cup game, Game 2 of the Cup Series for the Portland Trailblazers. This Trailblazers Report on the Fan is brought to you by Aztec Willie's Taqueria, the best place to go before and after games or any event. Check them out on the corner of Southeast 15 and Broadway at aztecwillies.com.
Aztec Willie's Taqueria has been Portland's destination for homestyle Mexican food for 30 years. Get ready for your team with our daily happy hour from 3 to 6. Can't make the game? Watch it live at Aztec Willie's on the corner of 15th and Broadway. Mention this ad and get $2 off. Savings on orders of $10 or more.
Check out the Fan Merch Locker.
Here's the situation.
With a new iconic long sleeve tee.
It's over, we think.
And a must-have hoodie in your favorite college colors.
Football's football.
Football's football.
Football's football.
Of course, you can still pick up the classic fan tee and the special edition Mike Lynch Fight Against ALS shirt. Check out the Fan Merch Locker now at 1080 The Fan.
There's a lot of people. It's like Woodstock, except everybody's got their clothes on.
.com.
Only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500. Discount on eligible
여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이
All right, as we wrap up today's show, it's time for our now seemingly daily Kenny Dillingham inspirational quote.
He's great. He is awesome.
All vibes, baby.
And now he's asking. He was asked about the tiebreaker scenarios in the Big 12 because
apparently they come into play in everybody's conference.
We just went through the 10 of the Big 10. The SEC could have, I think it's now down after last weekend's results, 6. You could have a 6-way tie to get into the SEC championship game. Big 12 is out of control as well, but they do have a shot. And here's Kenny Dillingham's take on it.
Oh, I have no clue. I literally have no. Somebody was telling me if we win and somebody else loses, and then like ranch dressing falls on a wing, I don't really know. It just play the very best you can play, prepare the very best you can prepare, and like I told the guys last week in my leadership council meeting, like don't get lost in the sauce. Like just be the very best we can be over and over again, and wherever we end up is the best we could have ever done. That's it. Like you can wish and hope, but if you just play the very best you can play and prepare the very best you can prepare, then regardless of what happens, it's the very maximum you could have ever achieved anyways. So what else do you want? So I have no clue the tiebreaker. Some of the players probably do. I couldn't even tell you.
I love Kenny Dillingham.
Fantastic.
He is.
It doesn't feel fake. It's corny and goofy as it all sounds. It sounds authentic.
It's genuine. And look, there's a lot of people that when he was like hired as Oregon's offensive coordinator, I know a lot of coaches that went down and like they went and they watched, because that's one of the things that's pretty typical is during spring ball, high school coaches can go down and they can watch, and they were like, yeah, Dillingham is a ball of energy, but he seems at times like he can be a little hitting moving targets left and right? Like he's kind of all over the place. And like, I don't know, because you get so used to guys like Chip Kelly or, Mark Helfrich, who are just attention to detail, dialed in type people, right? And then you get a Kenny Dillingham who's a very creative mind type person. And you're like, that is not normal for a football coach.
It's a little bit of a beautiful mind situation.
But it is exactly what makes him successful as a leader of young people now. Like, that's an antiquated way of thinking, is that you've got to be always buttoned up, dialed in all the time. It's like, no, when it's time to work, it's time to work. But you have to have that relatability, and you can see why he relates to his players, why his players absolutely freaking love the guy.
You have to have and this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, I don't mean it as that, but you have to have the ability to kind of go like TikTok.
Yeah.
You have to have the ability to just turn your brain off and
be
normal.
Be human and relatable, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you hear guys like, and Dillingham has that, he's smart.
Yeah.
He knows ball.
Yes.
But the young coaches now, whether it's Lanning or whether it's Dillingham, the way that they have the ability to connect with their players, it's what's separating them from the older regimes of coaching.
Yes.
In the older style of coaching. And you have to have that ability now, because that's what attracts players and what's going to want them to stick around, because kids are different now.
Yeah.
Like what connects to them is different. What everybody can sell the idea of going and playing in the NFL, right? But you hear from both of those guys, and he mentioned it in there, when I met with my leadership council, everything that these guys do that are kind of, and look, Dillingham and Lanning coach together, obviously, but it's all about the connectedness,
It's
right?
bringing guys with them.
And bringing everybody kind of more together instead of just do your damn job and
shut up and dribble, basically.
Be really good at football. It's no mistake why a lot of these programs are having the success that they're having. And it's not for everybody, but they're pulling off the guys that are buying into that.
Does Dillingham wake the sleeping giant?
Of Arizona State? Ooh, I hope he has success, man. I really do.
It's even cooler for him because it's home.
Yeah. It's where he went to school, where he grew up. Yeah, it's awesome. But they got a big one. If they can knock off BYU this week and Arizona next week, they're going to the Big 12 championship game. It's Big 12.
That'd be
awesome.
upset of the year.
That'd be great. That would be
Fun.
great. All right, that does it for us today. We will see you on a Wednesday. Coming up next, it's 4 hours of power from their mouths to your ears. Primetime with Isaac and Sook. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.
Bye.
Hello, sports fans.